My name is Scarlett, and I'm a 37-year-old housewife with no children. I work as well, balancing both roles. Today marks our 5th wedding anniversary, which also happens to be my husband Everett's birthday. Everett is the same age as me. Everett is a charming salesman working for a well-known company, where he's doing quite well. However, his job often requires him to work late and entertain clients, so we rarely spend time together. Our wedding was a modest ceremony held on a weekday, attended only by close family and a few friends. Both of us had jobs that required us to work on weekends, making it difficult to find a suitable time. Everett was particularly insistent on keeping it simple. For our anniversary and his birthday, I asked him to come home early. I even took half a day off from work to prepare. I bought his favorite Wagyu steak, wine, and cake from a department store and set up a beautifully decorated table. I waited eagerly for Everett to return home. However, despite my repeated requests, he never showed up. Instead, I received a single email from him, saying that he had urgent work and would be staying at the office. I was disappointed but tried to be understanding since it was work-related. I cleaned up the uneaten dinner and went to bed, though I couldn't shake a feeling of doubt, especially since he had told me he wasn't that busy. The next morning, I went to work as usual, but my messages to his phone went unread, and my calls went unanswered. Growing more worried, I called his office and was stunned to learn that he had resigned the day before and had apparently accepted a job in a neighboring prefecture. I hadn't heard anything about this. I rushed home and noticed his shoes by the entrance. My heart raced as I entered his room, only to find him packing his belongings into a suitcase. "What's going on?" I asked in shock, my eyes wide with disbelief. Everett simply clicked his tongue and handed me divorce papers, saying, "So, you've already figured it out." "What's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling with shock. With cold, emotionless eyes, he echoed my question before bluntly stating, "Let's get a divorce." "Why? What for?" I demanded, still reeling from his sudden declaration. "I'm tired of you not fulfilling your role as a wife," he replied, his tone sharp and unforgiving. "You put work first, you barely cook, you only do laundry once a week, and the house is always dusty. I don't need a wife like that." "Wait a minute," I protested, feeling a surge of frustration. "For the past 2 years, I've made dinner and waited for you, but you always said you had already eaten and refused to have any. That's why I stopped cooking." "Even so, it's a wife's duty to cook and wait," he retorted, dismissing my explanation. "Besides, your cooking is terrible, so I started eating out." I shuddered at the harshness in his voice, remembering how he used to compliment my cooking when we were first married. Desperately, I reminded him, we agreed when we got married that I would do the laundry and cleaning on my days off, Wednesdays and Thursdays, but he just rolled his eyes and scoffed. "So, I'm supposed to tolerate a dirty house from Friday to Tuesday? That's ridiculous." "What's happened to you all of a sudden?" I asked, bewildered by his sudden change in attitude. "I never imagined you'd want me to quit my job after 5 years of marriage." "When I got a new job offer, I saw it as the perfect opportunity," he said coldly. "An opportunity for what? A divorce?" I was stunned. Everett had never complained about my work or housekeeping before, and I had seen no signs that he was unhappy or thinking of ending our marriage. "You never noticed how dissatisfied I was," he said, his voice icy. "I don't need a wife like that. I've rented an apartment near my new job, so I won't be coming back to this place." With that, he pushed past me, standing in front of the door with his suitcase, and left the house without looking back. I stood there, utterly stunned, unable to grasp what had just happened. A week later, I attended my high school reunion. I wasn't really in the mood to go, but I had already paid the membership fee. Besides, I hadn't been able to reach Everett since that day, and my frustration was growing with each passing day. I thought the reunion might be a good way to clear my mind. When I arrived, I saw that some of my classmates were divorced or single mothers, yet they were all leading strong and resilient lives. Up until that point, all I had hoped for was to mend my relationship with Everett, but as I thought about it more, I realized that if we reconciled, I would likely have to move with him to his new job location. In that case, staying at my current job would be impossible due to the long daily commute, even though it was just in the neighboring prefecture. On the other hand, After working for 17 years since graduating from junior college and earning a decent salary, it would be nearly impossible to find a job that offered the same income in the new location. Everett had completely shut me out, and I began to wonder if it was time to let go. What made my decision final was a phone call from Everett, pressuring me to move out. We had been living in a rented apartment, where Everett was listed as the primary tenant. The lease renewal period was approaching, and it seemed the real estate agent had contacted him about it. I told them we'd be moving out in a month, so make sure everything is cleared out by then, he said bluntly. I'm still living here, and you didn't even consult me, I protested. His response was cold and dismissive. I'm the one renting it. I don't need to consult you. That was the moment I knew it was truly over. Fine, I'll pack up my things this weekend or next, I replied, feeling defeated. Make sure to get rid of not just your stuff, but everything left in my room and all the furniture, he added, his tone sharp. I was taken aback by his nerve. What are you talking about? You originally rented this place when you were single, and most of the furniture has been here since then. The other furniture and appliances were bought with your credit card. I'll take care of disposing of the items I primarily used, but you're responsible for getting rid of the rest and covering the disposal costs. I shot back. Without another word, he hung up on me. I couldn't believe how selfish he was, taking only what was precious to him and leaving the entire cleanup to me. This made me more determined than ever to go through with the divorce. Over the weekend, I began sorting through the closet, reminiscing about the happy times we had shared since our marriage. Among the items were things that belonged to both Everett and me. As I was going through them, I stumbled upon his high school graduation album. I suddenly realized that all the friends Everett had introduced me to were from after his college days. Absent-mindedly, I flipped through the pages of his graduation album, and that's when I noticed something unexpected. I submitted the divorce papers and informed Everett via email. A week later, I received a response from him in the evening, along with a picture. The image was of a marriage registration form with his name and that of another woman. I was stunned and stared at the screen in disbelief when my phone rang. It was Everett. Did you see it? He asked. What does this mean? I demanded, still in shock. It's exactly what it looks like, he replied casually. I just had a wedding ceremony and remarried that woman. You've got to be kidding, I said, incredulous. She's incredibly beautiful, wealthy, and has a wonderful personality, he boasted. She asked me to marry her as soon as our divorce was finalized. This picture is proof. Isn't it amazing? So, you were cheating on me while we were still married? I asked, my voice trembling with anger. I'm popular, unlike you, who only has your job going for you, he sneered. Oh, by the way, her father built us a house on their property, and I transferred to her hometown with his help. It's a mid-sized company, but I'm an executive there. Everett was clearly eager to brag about his new marriage to his wealthy affair partner, but as he spoke, a wave of intense anger surged within me. He had blamed me for the failure of our marriage and used that as an excuse to divorce me, but it was also he could remarry his affair partner. He admitted that they had been seeing each other for over 2 years. They had met at a pub where he was out with coworkers, and she was one of 4 women sitting at a nearby table. Apparently, when Everett accidentally spilled his drink on himself, she had kindly wiped it off, sparking their conversation. She's the same age as us, but she's incredibly beautiful and looks a decade younger, he continued, as if rubbing salt in the wound. She wiped my clothes with a pretty handkerchief, and when I took her out to dinner to thank her, I found out she was the daughter of a landowner. She had entered into an arranged marriage at her parents' suggestion but was distressed by her husband's infidelity. After realizing that she needed to improve herself, she became someone completely different from you. I was immediately drawn to her, Everett explained, revealing that he had aggressively pursued her after that. She began dating Everett while still married to her husband, without getting a divorce. Isn't it normal to question a woman who dates 2 men while supposedly being devoted to her husband? I asked. But Everett, blinded by love, hadn't noticed anything wrong. A woman who doesn't support her man is no good, he retorted. You prioritize work and don't care about your husband. You're just not right for me. So, you can't stand on your own, and you expect me to support you? I shot back, unable to hold back my frustration. Everett seemed irritated as well and replied, "Ah, I'm so glad I'm finally free from a woman like you. Stella is the best, after all." "Stella? Is that her name?" I asked. "Yeah, it's written with the characters for double and flower, like double cherry blossoms. She was born when the cherry blossoms were in full bloom. Her parents have great taste in names, they're true celebrities," Everett said, his voice filled with admiration for her unique name. As I listened to Everett gush about her, something clicked in my memory. "Did you really marry such an amazing woman? You're not lying, are you?" I asked, pretending to sound impressed. Everett's pride was clearly wounded by the insinuation. "She's the best wife with an impeccable family background and a great personality. Just look at her elegant beauty," he insisted and sent me a picture of the two of them at their wedding. There was no doubt it was her. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "What's so funny? This is proof that we really got married," Everett exclaimed, sounding defensive. Sure, it's real," I replied, struggling to contain my laughter. "Hey, stop laughing, we really got married, and there's a baby in her belly," he added, clearly annoyed. "What? No way," I said, unable to stop laughing. "Ah, I get it. Losing me must have made you go crazy," Everett said, interpreting my laughter in a way that suited him. Then, dreamily, he added, "In 3 months, we'll have a baby girl. She'll definitely be as beautiful as Stella. Well, even if she looks like you instead, she'll still be beautiful." Everett has a sweet, idol-like handsome face, and for some reason, he suddenly became flustered and said, "No, she doesn't need to look like me." Hearing that, I burst out laughing again. "Go crazy on your own. Goodbye," Everett snapped before hanging up the phone. Eventually, he'll figure out why I was laughing, and I can't wait for that day. After that, we had some disputes over alimony and the division of property, but with the help of a lawyer, I managed to secure a substantial settlement from Everett. He agreed to pay his share of the alimony, not wanting to cause Stella any emotional distress during her pregnancy. 2 years passed without any contact, and then I finally received a desperate email from him. "Please, Scarlett, I beg you, please listen to me." Reluctantly, I answered the phone call that followed right after the email. As I expected, it was about the child he had with Stella. "Well, kids tend to look like their parents, right?" I said. "Of course, who else would they look like?" he replied nervously. Apparently, the baby girl didn't resemble the beautiful Stella at all. "She's only 2 years old, right? She'll change a lot as she grows." I tried to reassure him, though I could tell he wasn't convinced. He found it odd that there was no resemblance at all, and I suppose that made sense. "Doesn't the baby look like you?" I asked, struggling to keep my laughter in check. Everett suddenly panicked and blurted out, "No, she doesn't, but it's okay that she doesn't look like me." He had secretly done a DNA test to check if Stella had been unfaithful, but the results confirmed that both Everett and Stella were undeniably the child's parents. "So, there's no doubt she's your child," I said. But Everett wasn't ready to let the conversation end there. "Hey, when I told you 2 years ago that Stella was pregnant, you laughed a lot. Do you know something?" he asked, pressing me for an answer. Wow, he remembered that well, I thought. Actually, Stella and I went to the same high school and were in the same grade. We were never in the same class during those 3 years, so I didn't know her well, but I do remember that she was the daughter of a landlord and had a rather haughty, unpleasant personality. At a class reunion about 2 years ago, the topic of Stella's plastic surgery came up. Stella, with her single eyelids, small eyes, button nose, and slight overbite, had been self-conscious about her looks. Apparently, after high school, she underwent several cosmetic procedures at a famous clinic in New York. She didn't attend the reunion, so I didn't see her in person, but a friend later sent me before and after pictures of her transformation. American cosmetic surgery really is incredible. When I told Everett about this, he didn't believe me at first, but then it hit him. He had never seen any childhood photos or graduation albums of hers. Was I deceived? Damn it, he muttered, realizing the truth. Stella had played the role of the sweet, demure woman while they were dating, but it turns out she had cheated on him multiple times and had been divorced before. Worse, she had been sued for alimony by several of her ex-husband's wives. I'm going to confront her, Everett declared. Maybe you shouldn't, I suggested. Huh, why not? He asked, confused. Well, the child doesn't look like you either, right? Usually, girls are said to resemble their fathers, I pointed out, making Everett fall silent. She can't look like you, you've had plastic surgery too. How did you? He began, but I cut him off. When I moved out of the apartment we lived in 2 years ago, I found your high school graduation album. You looked like a completely different person, and I was shocked. After seeing that album, I finally understood why he never introduced me to his college friends, insisted on having a modest wedding, and only invited a few colleagues from work. Everett had likely undergone plastic surgery while in college and had been afraid his past would be exposed by his old friends. I don't think there's anything wrong with plastic surgery, I told him, but you have to consider that your child might inherit your original features. So, what should I do now? Everett asked, sounding desperate. What do you mean? What should you do? Just be a normal father. The DNA results confirmed that the child is definitely yours. With that, I hung up the phone and immediately blocked his number and email address. It's astonishing how narrow-minded he is, just because his child's appearance didn't match his expectations. A year later, a friend of mine, who has a child the same age as Everett's daughter, showed me a picture of her little one starting kindergarten. The child was adorable. Interestingly, Everett and Stella's daughter didn't resemble either of them after their surgeries. According to my friend, who had become close to Stella, even Stella had expected her child to look more like Everett post-surgery. My friend mentioned that she often had to listen to Stella complain, saying things like, I shouldn't have given birth to such a child. It's hard to believe how awful they both are. On top of that, it seems Everett has already cheated again, and now Stella is even seeking divorce advice from my friend. Everett is such a fool. If they do end up getting divorced, he'll be stuck paying alimony and child support. And considering Stella's wealthy background, who knows how much she could demand if she gets a good lawyer. What's worse is that, according to my friend, even the local kids know about Stella's plastic surgery, and they've started excluding her daughter at kindergarten, telling her, your mom is actually ugly. It's a small comfort that Stella's parents seem to love their granddaughter, but it's truly sad for the child. Still, it's none of my business anymore. As for me, I managed to rent an apartment in a location that's convenient for commuting. With the shorter distance, I can now clean and do laundry after work, leaving my days off completely free to enjoy my own interests. I've also rekindled a friendship with a divorced classmate I reconnected with at the reunion, and I'm enjoying a leisurely and fulfilling life.
The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as I sipped my coffee, savoring the quiet moment before the day's chaos. Little did I know, the bombshell that was about to drop would shatter my world forever. You know, Elijah's always had a knack for saving for a rainy day, hasn't he? Eudora's casual remark cut through the silence like a knife. Such a shame the kids might not see a dime of it. I froze, the mug halfway to my lips. Wait, Eudora, what are you talking about? What money? Her eyes narrowed, a sly smile playing on her lips. Oh, didn't he tell you? Elijah's been squirreling away funds for years, keeping it all to himself. A cold dread washed over me as the implications sank in. The college funds we'd been meticulously saving for Ethan and Lily? Gone? Betrayed by the man I trusted most? The front door slammed, and Elijah strode in, his usual confident swagger faltering when he saw our expressions. What's going on? I rounded on him, fury building with each word. Is it true? Have you been hiding money from us? He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Marianne, it's not what you think. I was just trying to secure our future. Our future? I scoffed. Or yours. How could you do this to our children? Eudora chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. She never did understand the importance of financial security, did she, Elijah? White-hot anger coursed through my veins as decades of resentment toward my controlling mother-in-law bubbled to the surface. Stay out of this, Eudora. You've meddled enough in our lives. Elijah's jaw tightened, and he stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. Don't speak to my mother that way. She's only looking out for our best interests. Our best interests? I laughed bitterly. Or yours and hers? When have you ever considered what's best for me or the kids? The words hung heavy in the air, exposing the deep cracks in the facade of our perfect family. In that moment, I realized how little control I truly had over my life, my children's futures, even my own happiness. But as I looked into Elijah's cold, unapologetic eyes, a newfound determination took root within me. I would not be a passive bystander any longer. It was time to fight for what was rightfully ours and reclaim the life we deserved. The battle lines were drawn, and there would be no turning back. As the dust settled from our explosive confrontation, memories of the early days of my marriage came flooding back, a stark contrast to the present turmoil. I was a young, ambitious woman back then, fresh out of college with a promising career ahead of me. But when Elijah proposed, swept up in the whirlwind of love and dreams for our future, I made the difficult choice to leave my job and support his entrepreneurial aspirations. "Elijah, I left my job to support your dreams," I had said, my voice laced with uncertainty. "Why can't we make decisions together?" He had cupped my face in his hands, his eyes brimming with adoration. "I'm doing what's best for all of us, Marianne. Trust me." And I did. Foolishly, I trusted him, believing that our partnership was built on mutual respect and shared goals. Little did I know that the seeds of discord had already been sown, planted by the ever-present shadow of Eudora, Elijah's overbearing mother. From the moment I stepped into their lives, she made it clear that I would never be good enough for her precious son. Every decision I made, every opinion I voiced, was met with thinly veiled disdain and criticism. "A woman's place is in the home, supporting her husband," she would sneer, her words cutting deeper than any knife. Elijah, ever the dutiful son, would nod along, his allegiance firmly rooted in his mother's twisted ideals. As the years passed, Eudora's influence only grew stronger, seeping into every aspect of our lives like a insidious poison. She dictated how we raised our children, how we spent our money, even how we decorated our home. And Elijah, blinded by his devotion to her, allowed it all to happen, slowly stripping away my autonomy and sense of self-worth. The resentment festered within me, a bitter seed that took root and grew with each passing day. I had sacrificed so much for this family, only to be treated like a mere accessory, a trophy wife to be paraded around and controlled. But now, in the wake of Elijah's ultimate betrayal, that resentment had blossomed into a burning rage, fueling my determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. No longer would I be a passive bystander, allowing Eudora and Elijah to dictate the course of my life. It was time to fight back, to shed the shackles of their oppression and forge my own path, no matter the cost. As I look back on the early strains of our marriage, I realize that the cracks had been there all along, hidden beneath the veneer of domestic bliss. And now those cracks had shattered wide open, exposing the ugly truth that had been festering for far too long. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The cracks in our once idyllic family life grew wider with each passing day, as Elijah's domineering nature seeped into every aspect of our children's lives. It started with our son, Ethan. Brilliant and driven, he had always marched to the beat of his own drum, much to Elijah's chagrin. "Ethan, you're meant to take over the business one day," Elijah would declare, his voice brooking no argument. "It's your legacy." But Ethan, ever the free spirit, would shake his head defiantly. "Dad, I have my own dreams. Why can't you understand that?" Elijah's jaw would tighten, his eyes flashing with barely concealed anger. "Don't be foolish, son. This is your destiny, whether you like it or not." I would watch these exchanges with a sinking heart, powerless to intervene as Elijah crushed our son's aspirations under the weight of his own ambitions. And then there was Lily, our sweet, sensitive daughter, who longed for nothing more than her father's approval and affection. "Daddy, did you see the painting I made for you?" she would ask, her eyes shining with hope. But Elijah would barely spare her a glance, his mind already consumed by thoughts of work and business deals. "That's nice, dear," he would mutter distractedly, before turning his attention back to his ever-present laptop. Lily's shoulders would slump, her face falling as she realized once again that she was an afterthought in her father's world. It broke my heart to see the light in her eyes dim a little more with each dismissal. But Elijah remained oblivious, too consumed by his own selfish desires to notice the pain he inflicted on our children. And through it all, Eudora's poisonous influence lingered. whispering in Elijah's ear, feeding his ego and reinforcing his belief that he alone knew what was best for our family. "They need a strong hand to guide them, Elijah," she would croon. "You can't let them stray from the path you've set." Elijah would nod, his jaw set in grim determination, and I would watch helplessly as he tightened his grip on our children's lives, suffocating their dreams and individuality with his iron fist. But as the resentment and anger simmered within me, I knew that I could no longer stand idly by. My children deserved better than a life of oppression and unfulfilled potential. It was time to take a stand, to break free from the shackles of Elijah's control and reclaim our lives no matter the cost. As I looked at Ethan's defiant eyes and Lily's crestfallen expression, I vowed to myself that I would not let them become casualties in Elijah's war for dominance. This was my family, my life, and I would fight tooth and nail to protect it, even if it meant going to war with the man I had once loved. The tension in our household had reached a boiling point, and it all came to a head during one fateful family dinner. As we gathered around the table, the air was thick with unspoken resentments and simmering anger. Elijah sat at the head of the table, his face a mask of stern authority, while Eudora hovered nearby, her beady eyes watching my every move like a hawk. Ethan and Lily exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the impending storm. I tried in vain to maintain a semblance of normalcy. "Lily, how was school today?" Before she could answer, Eudora cut in with a derisive snort. As if she'd have anything worthwhile to say, "The girl's as dull as a doorknob." Lily's face fell, and I felt a surge of protective fury rise within me. "Eudora, please stop undermining my decisions with the kids." Her eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward, her voice dripping with contempt. "As if you've made any good decisions. You're just as useless in this family as you were in Elijah's business." The words hung in the air like a slap, and I recoiled as if struck. Elijah remained silent, his jaw clenched, offering no defense against his mother's cruelty. Something inside me snapped, years of pent-up frustration and resentment bubbling to the surface. "How dare you speak to me like that in my own home?" I snarled, slamming my fist on the table. "You've meddled in our lives for far too long, Eudora." Eudora's eyes widened in mock surprise. "Oh, the little woman finally grew a backbone, did she?" Elijah's chair scraped against the floor as he rose to his feet, his face flushed with anger. "Don't speak to my mother that way, Marianne. She's only looking out for our best interests." I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow and mirthless. "Our best interests, or yours and hers? When have you ever considered what's best for me or the kids?" The words hung heavy in the air, exposing the deep cracks in the facade of our perfect family. Ethan and Lily sat frozen, their eyes darting between us like spectators at a tragic play. Elijah's nostrils flared, and he leaned across the table, his voice low and menacing. "Don't question my authority in this household, Marianne. I am the head of this family, and my word is law." In that moment, I saw him for what he truly was, a man consumed by his own ego, blinded by his mother's twisted influence, and willing to sacrifice everything, even his own children, in pursuit of power and control. And as I looked into his cold, unyielding eyes, I knew that our marriage, our family, had reached a point of no return. The illusion had shattered, and there was no going back. The battle lines were drawn, and I would fight to the bitter end, no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the disastrous family dinner, a cold, hard resolve took root within me. I had given everything for this family, my career, my dreams, my very sense of self, only to be belittled and betrayed at every turn. No more. As Elijah stormed off, Eudora's poisonous laughter ringing in his wake, I knew that I could no longer stand idly by. It was time to take matters into my own hands and uncover the full extent of his deception. Late at night, when the house was still, I would slip into Elijah's study, rifling through his meticulously organized files and records. At first, the evidence was sparse, a few suspicious transactions here, a discrepancy in the books there. But as I dug deeper, a more sinister pattern began to emerge. Hidden offshore accounts, falsified financial statements, embezzlement on a massive scale. The man I had once loved, the man I had sacrificed everything for, was nothing more than a fraud, a master manipulator who had been bleeding our family dry for years. With each new revelation, my anger and determination grew, fueling me to dig deeper, to leave no stone unturned in my quest for the truth. "I've given everything for this family," I muttered to myself, clenching my fists around the damning evidence in my hands. "I won't let him destroy the kids' futures, too." Ethan and Lily's faces flashed before my mind's eye. Ethan, his dreams of independence crushed under the weight of his father's expectations. Lily, her spirit slowly withering from years of neglect and dismissal. They deserved better. We all did. And so, armed with the truth, I began to formulate a plan. A counterattack that would not only expose Elijah's lies, but dismantle his carefully constructed web of control once and for all. No longer would I be the meek, submissive wife, cowering in the shadows of his domineering presence. This was war, and I would fight with every ounce of strength I possessed to protect my children and reclaim the life that had been stolen from me. As I pored over the incriminating documents, my mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and contingencies. I would need allies, people I could trust to stand by my side when the inevitable confrontation came. Ethan and Lily would be my first line of defense. They deserved to know the truth about their father, to understand the depths of his betrayal. Together, we would form an unbreakable united front, a force to be reckoned with. And then, when the time was right, I would strike, unleashing a torrent of revelations that would shatter Elijah's carefully cultivated facade and bring his empire crumbling down around him. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more living in fear of a man who had proven himself unworthy of my loyalty or my love. As I clutched the damning evidence in my hands, a sense of grim determination washed over me. This was the point of no return, the moment where I would take back control of my life and my family's future. And Elijah would soon learn that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. With the damning evidence in hand, I knew it was time to confront Elijah and shatter the illusion of our perfect family once and for all. I found him in his study, poring over financial reports with a furrowed brow. As I entered, he glanced up, his expression hardening when he saw the steely resolve in my eyes. "Marianne," he said, his tone clipped. "What is it now?" I didn't mince words. "Elijah, I found everything. The hidden accounts, the embezzlement. You've been deceiving us all." For a moment, he froze, his mask of indifference slipping as the realization of his exposed lies sank in. But then, just as quickly, he regained his composure, leaning back in his chair with a condescending smirk. "You wouldn't understand, Marianne," he scoffed. "It's too complicated for you." Rage bubbled within me at his dismissive tone, his utter lack of remorse. "Don't patronize me, Elijah. I understand perfectly well. You've been stealing from our family, jeopardizing our children's futures for your own selfish gain." His eyes narrowed, and he leaned forward, his voice low and menacing. "Everything I've done has been for this family, to secure our legacy, our power." "Our power?" I laughed bitterly. "Or yours and Eudora's? When have you ever considered what's best for me or the kids?" His jaw tightened at the mention of his mother's name, and I knew I had struck a nerve. "Don't bring my mother into this. She's the only one who truly understands what it takes to build an empire." In that moment, the truth became painfully clear. Elijah's actions, his manipulation, his utter disregard for our family's well-being had all been fueled by his mother's relentless meddling and his own insatiable hunger for power. "You're a fool, Marianne," he spat, rising from his chair. "You've never appreciated the sacrifices I've made, the lengths I've gone to protect what's ours." "Protect?" I shook my head in disbelief. "You've done nothing but destroy. Our marriage, our family, our children's futures, all sacrificed on the altar of your ego and Eudora's twisted ambitions." His face contorted with rage, and for a moment I feared he might strike me. But then, just as quickly, the storm passed, and he straightened his tie, regaining his composure. "You'll never understand, Marianne," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're too weak, too emotional. This is the real world, and in the real world, only the strong survive." As he brushed past me, his shoulder colliding with mine in a deliberate show of dominance, I felt something shift within me. The fear, the doubt, the years of subjugation, they all melted away, replaced by a burning determination to take back what was mine. Elijah might have thought he held all the cards, but he had underestimated me for the last time. I was done playing by his rules, done living in the shadow of his manipulation and Eudora's poisonous influence. It was time to fight back, to dismantle their twisted empire brick by brick and reclaim the life and family they had stolen from me. The battle lines were drawn, and I would emerge victorious, no matter the cost. In the wake of my confrontation with Elijah, a newfound determination took root within me. I would no longer be a passive bystander, allowing him and his mother to dictate the course of our lives. It was time to take action. I knew that dismantling Elijah's web of lies and manipulation would require more than just my efforts alone. I needed allies, people who shared my resolve and understood the depths of his betrayal. And so, I turned to the two people who mattered most, Ethan and Lily. Gathering them in the living room, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the difficult conversation ahead. "Kids, there's something you need to know about your father," I began, my voice steady, despite the turmoil churning within me. Ethan's brow furrowed, while Lily's eyes widened with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "What is it, Mom?" Ethan asked, leaning forward in his chair. I didn't mince words. "Your father has been lying to us for years. He's been embezzling money, hiding assets, putting his own selfish desires above our family's well-being." A heavy silence hung in the air as the weight of my words sank in. Lily's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "How could he do this to us?" I shook my head, my heart aching for the pain I knew this revelation would cause them. "It's a long, complicated story, but the bottom line is that we can't trust him anymore. He's been manipulating us all, influenced by his mother's twisted ambitions." Ethan's jaw clenched, and I could see the anger simmering behind his eyes. "That's why he's been pushing me to join the business, isn't it? To further his own agenda?" I nodded, reaching out to squeeze his hand. "I'm afraid so, sweetheart. But we don't have to play by his rules anymore." A determined gleam flickered in Ethan's gaze, and he straightened his shoulders. "What do you need us to do, Mom?" In that moment, I felt a surge of pride and gratitude for my children's unwavering support. We might have been fractured and beaten down by Elijah's manipulations, but in that moment, we were a united front, a force to be reckoned with. "We're going to expose him," I said, my voice ringing with conviction. "We're going to bring his lies into the light and dismantle his control over this family once and for all." Lily nodded, her eyes hardening with resolve. "He's hurt us for the last time. I'm in." Ethan mirrored her determination. "Count me in too, Mom. It's time we took our lives back." As we began to strategize, plotting our counterattack against Elijah's twisted empire, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. For too long, I had been the victim, the helpless bystander in my own life. But no more. With my children by my side, I was a force to be reckoned with. A woman scorned, yes, but also a mother fiercely protective of her family's well-being. And Elijah would soon learn that he had underestimated us all for the last time. The battle lines were drawn, and we would emerge victorious, no matter the cost. With Ethan and Lily by my side, our united front solidified. It was time to bring Elijah's twisted empire crumbling down around him. We had spent weeks meticulously planning our counterattack, gathering evidence and strategizing our approach. The day of reckoning arrived, and we called an impromptu family meeting, ensuring that Eudora would be present as well. As they filed into the living room, Elijah's brow furrowed at the sight of our grim expressions. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. "It's time for the truth to come out, Elijah. We know everything. The embezzlement, the hidden accounts, the lies." His face paled as the realization dawned, but he quickly regained his composure, shooting a venomous glare in my direction. "You've gone too far this time, Marianne." Ethan stepped forward, his jaw set in determination. "No, Dad, you're the one who's gone too far. How could you betray us like this? Jeopardize our futures for your own greed?" Elijah's nostrils flared, and he turned to Eudora, seeking her support. "Mother, tell them they're being ridiculous. You know I've only ever had this family's best interests at heart." But Eudora remained silent, her eyes downcast, unable to meet our accusing stares. Lily's voice trembled as she spoke, years of pent-up hurt and resentment bubbling to the surface. "Was any of it real, Dad? Or were we just pawns in your game for power and control?" Elijah's mask of indifference slipped, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something akin to regret in his eyes. but it was gone in an instant, replaced by the familiar arrogance and disdain. "You're all fools," he spat, his voice dripping with contempt. "You have no idea the sacrifices I've made, the lengths I've gone to secure our legacy." I shook my head, my heart heavy with the weight of his betrayal. "Your legacy? Or Eudora's twisted vision of what our family should be? When did you ever stop to consider what we wanted, what dreams we had for ourselves?" Elijah opened his mouth to respond, but I held up a hand, cutting him off. "No more lies, Elijah. It's over. We're done living in the shadow of your manipulation and deceit." Turning to Ethan and Lily, I felt a surge of pride and determination. This is the start of a new chapter for us, one where we value honesty and mutual respect above all else. Lily's eyes shone with unshed tears, but her voice was steady as she spoke. "Mom, we believe in you. We're ready to rebuild together as a family." In that moment, as Elijah's empire crumbled around him, his carefully cultivated facade of power and control shattered, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The years of oppression, the sacrifices, the pain, it had all been worth it to reach this moment of liberation. As Elijah stormed out, his pride in tatters, I knew that our journey was far from over. Rebuilding our lives, healing the wounds inflicted by his betrayal, would be a long and arduous process. But for the first time in decades, I felt truly free. Free from the shackles of his manipulation, free from the toxic influence of Eudora's meddling, free to forge my own path and reclaim the life that had been stolen from me. And as I looked into the eyes of my children, their love and support shining through, I knew that we would emerge from this trial stronger than ever before. A family united by truth, resilience, and an unbreakable bond that no force, not even Elijah's twisted ambitions, could ever hope to sever. I stared at the divorce papers in my hands, the weight of them far heavier than the few sheets of paper they actually were. My husband Devon's words echoed in my ears, each syllable a dagger to my heart. "You've always been a burden," he said, his voice as cold as the February wind howling outside our bedroom window. "Now that you can't give me children, I'm done with you." I looked up at him, searching for any hint of the man I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. All I saw was a stranger, his face twisted with disdain. "Devon, please," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I'm having surgery tomorrow. They don't know if it's cancer yet. How can you do this now?" He scoffed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "That's exactly why I'm doing this now, Evie. I can't be tied to a sick wife. What about my future? My legacy?" The room spun around me, and I gripped the edge of the bed to steady myself. "Your legacy? What about our vows? In sickness and in health, remember?" Devon's laugh was bitter. "Wake up, Evie. Those were just words. This is real life." A knock at the door interrupted us. "Everything all right in there?" It was Miriam, Devon's mother. Of course she was hovering nearby, probably gleeful at the thought of finally getting rid of me. "It's fine, Mother," Devon called out. He turned back to me, his eyes cold. "Sign the papers, Evie. Make this easy on both of us." I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of betrayal. "Both of us? You mean easy for you, don't you?" He shrugged, not even bothering to deny it. "Think about it. You've never fit in here. My parents have always seen you as less than. This is your chance for a clean break." The truth of his words stung, but I couldn't deny them. Memories of snide comments, backhanded compliments, and cold shoulders from Miriam and Stanley flashed through my mind. I'd endured it all, thinking Devon was worth it. How wrong I'd been. "I need time to think," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Devon's eyes narrowed. "You have until morning. I want those papers signed before you leave for the hospital." With that, he turned and left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the damning papers. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at nothing. The buzz of my phone finally broke through my daze. It was my mother, Henrietta. "Evie? Sweetheart, are you there?" I cleared my throat, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hi, Mom." "Oh, honey, you sound terrible. What's wrong?" The dam broke. Through sobs, I told her everything. The papers, Devon's cruel words, the impending surgery. She listened, her fury growing with each word. "You've been nothing but a maid to them," she said, her voice laced with anger. "I knew that boy was no good, but this is beyond the pale." "Mom, I don't know what to do," I admitted, feeling lost. "You listen to me, Evelyn Harper," she said, her tone brooking no argument. "You are strong. You are brave, and you do not need that sorry excuse for a man or his horrible parents. Your father and I are on our way. We'll be there first thing in the morning to take you to the hospital." I felt a small spark of warmth in my chest. "Thanks, Mom." After we hung up, I looked at the divorce papers again. Part of me wanted to rip them to shreds, to fight for the life I thought I had. But a smaller, growing part whispered that maybe this was an opportunity, a chance to reclaim myself. With a shaky hand, I reached for a pen. As I signed my name, I made a silent vow. I would get through this surgery. I would survive. And I would build a life so beautiful, so full of love and joy, that Devon and his family would regret ever letting me go. I placed the signed papers on Devon's pillow and lay down, closing my eyes. Tomorrow would bring challenges, pain, and uncertainty. But for the first time in years, it would also bring the promise of freedom. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital waiting room made everything look sickly and unreal. I sat between my parents, their presence a comforting shield against the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "Evelyn Harper?" A nurse called out, her voice cutting through the quiet murmur of the room. I stood on shaky legs, my mother's hand firmly grasping mine. "That's me." As we followed the nurse, my father's deep voice rumbled behind us. "We're right here with you, sweetheart. You're not alone." Those words, so simple yet so powerful, nearly broke me. I blinked back tears, determined to stay strong. The pre-op room was cold, both in temperature and atmosphere. As I changed into the thin hospital gown, my mind drifted back to the countless times I'd felt just as exposed and vulnerable in my own home. "Remember when you first moved in with Devon and his parents?" My mother's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I should have spoken up then. I sighed, settling onto the narrow bed. "Mom, please, not now." But Henrietta Harper was not one to be silenced. "No, Evie, you need to hear this. You've been nothing but a maid to them. All these years, cooking, cleaning, trying to please those people who never appreciated you." Her words unleashed a flood of memories, Miriam's critical eyes following my every move as I dusted her precious antiques, Stanley's dismissive grunt when I'd served dinner, no matter how perfectly prepared, and Devon always siding with his parents, never standing up for me. "I thought if I just tried harder, they'd accept me," I whispered, the truth of it hitting me anew. My father's hand on my shoulder startled me. "You shouldn't have had to try at all, honey. A real family loves you for who you are." A knock at the door interrupted us. Dr. Patel entered, her kind eyes crinkling as she smiled. "Ready, Evelyn?" I took a deep breath. "As I'll ever be." As they wheeled me towards the operating room, a commotion in the hallway caught my attention. My heart lurched as I recognized Devon's voice. "I'm her husband. I have a right to be here." Dr. Patel frowned. "Is there a problem, Evelyn?" I closed my eyes, steeling myself. "That man is not my husband anymore. Please don't let him in." The doctor nodded, signaling to a nearby security guard. As they pushed me through the double doors, I caught a glimpse of Devon's face, a mix of anger and something else, regret, perhaps? The anesthesia began to take effect, and as I drifted off, I found myself hoping, not for reconciliation, but for the strength to finally break free. When I woke, groggy and sore, my parents were there, their faces a mix of relief and concern. "How did it go?" I croaked, my throat dry. My mother's eyes welled up. "Dr. Patel said they got it all, sweetheart. No cancer." The relief was overwhelming, but as I fully regained consciousness, so did the memories of everything else. "Devon?" I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. My father's face hardened. "Gone. Security escorted him out, but Evie, his mother, is here. She's demanding to see you." I felt a flash of panic, quickly replaced by a surge of anger. After everything they'd put me through, they still thought they had the right to be here? "Tell her to leave," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "I don't want to see any of them ever again." My mother squeezed my hand. "That's my girl." As my parents left to deal with Miriam, I lay back, staring at the ceiling. The physical battle might be over, but I knew the emotional one was just beginning. For the first time in years, though, I felt a glimmer of hope. I was alive, cancer-free, and finally free from the shackles of a loveless marriage. Whatever came next, I would face it on my own terms. No more trying to please people who could never be satisfied. No more sacrificing my happiness for others. It was time to rediscover who Evelyn Harper really was beyond being Devon's wife or Miriam and Stanley's daughter-in-law. As I drifted off to sleep again, I made a silent promise to myself. This was my second chance at life, and I wouldn't waste it. The gentle hum of my parents' house wrapped around me like a warm blanket. After weeks in the sterile hospital environment, being here felt like a breath of fresh air. But as I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of bills before me, that comfort quickly evaporated. "You don't need him, Evie. You have us," my father, Paul, said, squeezing my hand. His weathered face creased with concern. I managed a weak smile. "I know, Dad, but I can't keep relying on you and Mom forever. These medical bills, they're astronomical." My mother, Henrietta, bustled in with a steaming mug of tea. "Nonsense, sweetheart. We're your parents. This is what we're here for." As grateful as I was, a familiar feeling of inadequacy crept in. I was 35, divorced and living with my parents. This wasn't how I'd imagined my life would turn out. "I need to get back to work," I declared, more to myself than to them. My mother's brow furrowed. "Evie, you're still recovering. There's no rush." A sharp knock at the door cut her off. We exchanged puzzled glances. We weren't expecting anyone. My father went to answer it, and I heard muffled voices. Then, "Evie, it's for you." Curious, I made my way to the door. My heart dropped when I saw who was standing there. Miriam Caldwell, my former mother-in-law, looked smaller than I remembered. Her usually impeccable appearance was slightly disheveled, and her eyes were red-rimmed. "Evelyn," she said, her voice wavering. "May I come in?" Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door in her face, but something in her demeanor made me hesitate. "5 minutes," I said coldly, stepping aside. We settled in the living room, an uncomfortable silence stretching between us. My parents hovered nearby, ready to intervene if needed. Miriam cleared her throat. I owe you an apology, Evelyn. The way we treated you, it was unforgivable." I stared at her, speechless. In all the years I'd known her, I'd never heard Miriam apologize for anything. She continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Devin told us what he did, how he left you when you needed him most. I'm ashamed of him, and I'm ashamed of myself for raising a son who could be so cruel." Part of me wanted to lash out, to unleash years of pent-up hurt and anger. But looking at this broken woman before me, I felt an unexpected twinge of pity. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Miriam's eyes met mine, because I realized how wrong we were, and because I need your help. I let out a bitter laugh. "My help? After everything you put me through?" "It's Stanley," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's sick. Cancer. The doctors say it's advanced." The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who had made my life miserable for years was now facing the very thing I had just overcome. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, surprised to find I meant it, "but I don't see how I can help." Miriam wrung her hands. "You're the strongest person I know, Evelyn. The way you've handled everything, I thought maybe you could talk to him. Help him find the courage to fight." I sat there, stunned. The woman who had once told me I wasn't good enough for her son was now calling me strong. Asking for my help, my mother's voice cut through my thoughts. "I think you should leave now, Miriam. Evie needs her rest." As my father showed Miriam out, I remained rooted to the spot, my mind whirling. Part of me wanted to help, to be the bigger person. But another part, a louder part, screamed that I owed these people nothing. "What are you thinking, sweetheart?" my mother asked gently. I looked up at her, feeling more conflicted than ever. "I don't know, Mom. I really don't know." As I headed to my room, my father's words echoed in my head. "You don't need him, Evie. You have us." He was right. I had their love and support. But now I faced a choice that would test the limits of my compassion and my newfound strength. Could I find it in myself to help the very people who had hurt me so deeply? Or was it time to finally, truly move on? The familiar hum of the office felt both comforting and strange as I stepped off the elevator. It had been months since I'd last been here, yet it felt like a lifetime ago. "Evie." Fiona's excited voice cut through the quiet buzz of the morning. She rushed over, enveloping me in a warm hug. "You look great, stronger than ever." I smiled, grateful for her enthusiasm. "Thanks, Fee. It's good to be back." As we walked to my desk, I couldn't help but notice the sidelong glances and hushed whispers from my coworkers. News of my divorce and health struggles had clearly made the rounds. "Don't mind them," Fiona said, sensing my discomfort. "They're just glad you're okay." I nodded, trying to shake off the feeling of being under a microscope. "So, what have I missed?" Fiona's face lit up. Oh, you won't believe it. Remember that big account we were trying to land before you left? Well, as she filled me in on office gossip and project updates, I felt a sense of normalcy returning. This was my world where I was valued for my skills and contributions, not judged by my ability to please a demanding husband and in-laws. But that feeling was short-lived. As I settled into my chair, my boss, Mr. Thornton, appeared at my desk. "Evelyn, a word in my office, please." Fiona shot me a concerned look as I followed him. Once inside, he gestured for me to sit. "First, let me say how glad we are to have you back," he began, his tone oddly formal. "However, there have been some changes while you were away." My stomach dropped. "Changes?" He cleared his throat. "We've had to reassign some of your major accounts. Given your extended absence and the uncertain nature of your return, it was necessary for the company's stability." I felt the floor shift beneath me. Those accounts had been mine for years. I'd built relationships, nurtured deals, poured my heart into them. "But, sir, I'm back now. Surely I can." He held up a hand. "I'm afraid the decisions have been made. We'll be easing you back in with smaller projects for now." As I left his office, my mind reeled. It felt like another betrayal, another piece of my identity stripped away. Fiona was waiting, her face etched with concern. "What happened?" I shook my head, unable to form words. She guided me to the break room, away from prying eyes. "They took my accounts," I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Fiona's eyes widened. "All of them? But that's not fair. You've been through hell, Evie. They can't punish you for that." Her indignation sparked something in me. She was right. I'd fought cancer, survived a divorce, and reclaimed my life. I wouldn't let this setback define me. "You know what?" I said, straightening my spine. "I'm going to prove to them that I'm still the best they've got." Fiona grinned. "That's the Evie I know, and I've got just the thing to help." She told me about a new potential client, a startup with huge growth potential. It was risky, but if we landed it, it could be bigger than all my old accounts combined. "It's a long shot," she warned, "but if anyone can do it, it's you." I felt a surge of determination. This was my chance to redefine myself, to show everyone, including myself, what I was truly capable of. As we headed back to our desks, Fiona nudged me. "Oh, and there's a company mixer next week to woo some of these new clients. You should come. It'll be good for you to get out there." I hesitated. The thought of putting myself out there socially was daunting, but I knew she was right. It was time to step out of my comfort zone. "Count me in," I said, surprising myself with my enthusiasm. That evening, as I recounted the day's events to my parents over dinner, I realized something. For the first time in years, I was excited about the future. There were challenges ahead, yes, but also opportunities, and I was ready to face them head on. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart," my father said, his eyes misty. "You're finding your strength again." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "I am, Dad, and you know what? It feels pretty damn good." The company mixer buzzed with energy, a sea of unfamiliar faces and polite small talk. I smoothed my dress nervously, feeling out of place. Fiona had convinced me to wear something bolder than my usual attire, insisting it would boost my confidence. "You've got this, Evie," Fiona whispered, squeezing my arm before disappearing into the crowd. I took a deep breath and made my way to the bar, determined to mingle and hopefully connect with potential clients. As I waited for my drink, a familiar voice cut through the noise. "Evie? Evelyn Harper, is that you?" I turned, my heart skipping a beat as I recognized the man approaching me. "Preston? Preston Bowen?" His warm smile hadn't changed since college. "I can't believe it. How long has it been?" "Too long," I replied, surprised by the genuine joy I felt seeing him. We fell into easy conversation, catching up on the years that had passed. Preston was now a successful architect, his eyes lighting up as he talked about his latest projects. "What about you, Evie? Still conquering the business world?" I hesitated, unsure how to answer. "It's complicated. I've had some setbacks recently." Preston's expression softened. "I heard about your divorce. I'm so sorry." Something in his tone made me look up. There was no pity in his eyes, just genuine concern and something else I couldn't quite place. "Evie, I've been thinking a lot about you," he said quietly. Before I could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught everyone's attention. My blood ran cold as I recognized the voice cutting through the murmur of the crowd. "Where is she? Where's my wife?" Devon stumbled into view, his eyes wild and unfocused. He'd clearly been drinking. Ex-wife, I muttered, my momentary happiness evaporating. Preston stepped closer, protectively. Do you want me to handle this? I shook my head, steeling myself. No, I need to do this myself. As I approached Devon, the crowd parted, all eyes on us. I could feel the weight of their stares, the whispers already starting. Devon, what are you doing here? I kept my voice low, trying to avoid a scene. He grabbed my arm, his grip painfully tight. I made a mistake, Evie. I want us back, he pleaded, his voice cracking. The smell of alcohol on his breath made me recoil. You're drunk, Devon. Go home. Not without you, he insisted, his voice rising. I was wrong. I need you. I felt a surge of anger, months of pain and resentment bubbling to the surface. Need me? You left me when I needed you most. You called me a burden. The room had gone silent, all pretense of polite disinterest abandoned as our private drama played out publicly. Devon's face crumpled. I'm sorry. Please, Evie, give me another chance. For a moment, a tiny part of me wavered. This was the man I'd loved, the life I'd known. But then I remembered the coldness in his eyes as he handed me those divorce papers, the years of feeling inadequate and unloved. No, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. We're done, Devon, for good. As security arrived to escort him out, I turned to find Preston watching me, a mix of concern and admiration on his face. Are you okay? He asked softly. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. I will be. As the party reluctantly resumed around us, Preston gently touched my arm. Let me take you home. We can talk if you want, or not. Whatever you need. I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time in years. I saw kindness, understanding, and something that looked a lot like love. It terrified me and thrilled me in equal measure. In that moment, I faced a choice. I could retreat, protect my battered heart from any possibility of future pain, or I could take a chance, open myself up to the potential for happiness again. Actually, I said, surprising myself, I'd love to get a coffee and talk, if you're free. Preston's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. For you, Evie? Always. As we left the party together, I felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it might lead. The weeks following the company mixer had been a whirlwind. Preston and I had been spending more time together, rekindling a connection I'd forgotten was possible. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen and appreciated. But as I stood outside my apartment building, staring at the unexpected visitors before me, that newfound happiness threatened to crumble. Evelyn, dear, we need to talk. Miriam Caldwell said, her usually imperious tone softened with what sounded like genuine remorse. Beside her, Stanley looked uncomfortable, avoiding my gaze. My heart raced as I considered turning them away. But curiosity got the better of me. Come in, I said curtly, leading them to my small living room. As we sat, an awkward silence fell. Finally, Stanley cleared his throat. Evelyn, we owe you an apology. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. In all the years I'd known them, the Caldwells had never apologized for anything. Miriam leaned forward, her eyes glistening. We were wrong about you, dear. The way we treated you, it was unforgivable. Their words, so long wished for, now felt hollow. Where was this remorse when I was fighting cancer, when their son abandoned me at my lowest? Why now? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Stanley shifted uncomfortably. Devon, he's in trouble. He's been drinking, lost his job. He needs help, and he needs you. And there it was, the real reason for their visit. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, surprised to find I meant it. But I don't see how I can help. Miriam reached for my hand, which I instinctively pulled away. You were always his rock, Evelyn. If anyone can bring him back, it's you. A bitter laugh escaped me. His rock? He left me when I needed him most, called me a burden. We know, Stanley said, his voice heavy with shame, and we encouraged him. We were wrong, so wrong. As they continued their pleas, my mind raced. Part of me, the part that had spent years trying to please these people, wanted to help, but a stronger, wiser part knew better. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Preston. Can't wait for dinner tonight. You make me happier than I've ever been. In that moment, everything crystallized. I stood, my decision made. I'm sorry, I said, my voice firm. I truly am. But I can't help you or Devon. That chapter of my life is closed. Miriam's face crumpled. But he loves you. He made a mistake. No, I cut her off. He made a choice, and now I'm making mine. As I showed them out, a commotion in the hallway caught our attention. Devon stumbled towards us, clearly drunk. "Evie," he slurred, reaching for me. "I knew you'd take me back. We belong together." I stepped back, my heart pounding. "Devon, you need to leave." His face darkened. "Leave? I just got here. I'm not going anywhere without you." As he lunged forward, I felt a surge of panic, but before he could reach me, another figure appeared. "I believe the lady asked you to leave." Preston's steady voice cut through the tension. Devon's eyes narrowed. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who actually cares about Evie," Preston replied, moving protectively in front of me. The situation was escalating rapidly. Devon, fueled by alcohol and jealousy, took a swing at Preston. In the chaos that followed, I found myself caught between my past and my potential future. As security arrived to handle Devon and his parents looked on in horror, I felt a strange sense of calm. This was the moment. The final break from my old life. Turning to Preston, I saw concern in his eyes. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, realizing I had a choice to make. I could let this incident drag me back into the drama and pain of my past, or I could embrace the future I'd been building. "I will be," I said, taking his hand. "Let's get out of here." As we walked away, leaving the echoes of my past behind, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I was ready to face it on my own terms. The weeks following Devon's drunken outburst flew by in a whirlwind of change. Preston and I had grown closer, our relationship deepening with each passing day. His unwavering support and genuine affection were a balm to my battered heart. "Move in with me," Preston said one evening as we sat on my small balcony watching the sunset. "You've come too far to look back now." I hesitated, old fears bubbling up. "Are you sure? My life's been such a mess." His eyes serious. "Evie, you're the strongest person I know. Your mess is part of what makes you amazing." His words touched something deep within me, and I found myself nodding. "Okay, let's do it." The next few days were a flurry of packing and planning. As I sorted through my belongings, deciding what to keep and what to let go, it felt like I was shedding the last remnants of my old life. On moving day, as we carried the last box into Preston's, our apartment, my phone rang. It was Fiona, her voice tight with worry. "Evie, you need to get to the office. Now." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "It's that big account you've been working on. Devon's here, and he's threatening to tank the deal if you don't talk to him." I felt the blood drain from my face. This account was my chance to prove myself, to reclaim my place in the company, and Devon knew it. Preston saw my expression and was immediately at my side. "What is it?" I explained quickly, my mind racing. "I have to go," I said, grabbing my keys. "I'm coming with you," Preston insisted, but I shook my head. "No, I need to handle this myself, for good." The drive to the office was a blur. When I arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. I could hear Devon's raised voice before I even entered the conference room. "There she is," he exclaimed as I walked in, his words slightly slurred. "The woman of the hour." I took in the scene. My colleagues' uncomfortable faces, the client's confusion, and Devon's disheveled appearance. This was my moment of truth. "Devon, we need to talk. Privately," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He smirked. "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of everyone." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Fine, you need to leave. Now. What we had is over, and you have no right to interfere with my life or my work." Devon's face darkened. "No right? I made you who you are. Without me, you're nothing." His words, once so cutting, now felt hollow. I looked around the room, at the faces of people who had supported me, believed in me. Then I turned back to Devon. "You're wrong," I said, my voice growing stronger. "I am everything I am in spite of you, not because of you, and I won't let you take that away from me." I turned to the clients, who were watching with a mix of shock and interest. "I apologize for this disruption. If you'll give me a chance, I'd like to show you why our proposal is the best choice for your company." For a moment, the room was silent. Then, to my surprise, the lead client nodded. "We're listening, Miss Harper." As I launched into my presentation, I felt a surge of confidence. Devon's protests faded into the background as I spoke passionately about the project, my ideas flowing effortlessly. When I finished, the clients were smiling. "We're impressed, Miss Harper. You've got yourself a deal." The room erupted in applause. As security finally escorted a protesting Devon out, Fiona rushed to hug me. "You did it, Evie. You really did it." In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of my colleagues' congratulations, I felt a profound shift. This wasn't just a professional victory. It was a personal one. I had faced my past, stood my ground, and come out stronger. As the excitement died down and I gathered my things to leave, I found myself both exhilarated and exhausted. The day's events had pushed me to my limits, forcing me to confront my deepest fears and insecurities. But as I stepped out of the office, I realized something profound. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I had the strength to face them. My future was my own, and I was ready to embrace it fully. The soft glow of fairy lights illuminated our backyard, transforming it into a magical oasis. I stood before the full-length mirror in our bedroom, smoothing down my simple white dress. It wasn't the elaborate gown I'd worn for my first wedding, but it felt infinitely more me. A gentle knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Come in," I called. My mother, Henrietta, entered, her eyes immediately welling with tears. "Oh, Evie," she breathed, "you look beautiful." I smiled, feeling a lump form in my throat. "Thanks, Mom." She approached, taking my hands in hers. "This is what it's all about, Evie. Family, love, and new beginnings," she said, her voice thick with emotion. As we embraced, I felt the weight of the past few years lift from my shoulders. The pain, the struggles, the moments of despair, they had all led me here, to this moment of pure joy. "Are you ready?" my father asked, appearing at the doorway. I took a deep breath and nodded. "More than ever." As we made our way to the backyard, I could hear the soft murmur of conversation from our small gathering of friends and family. This wasn't a grand affair, but it was perfect. The moment I stepped into view, I locked eyes with Preston. His face lit up with a smile so bright it rivaled the twinkling lights surrounding us. In that instant, I knew with absolute certainty that I was exactly where I was meant to be. As I walked down the makeshift aisle, memories of the past year flashed through my mind. The betrayal, the surgery, the long road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. But with each step, those painful memories faded, replaced by newer, happier ones. Preston's unwavering support, Fiona's friendship, my parents' love, and my own rediscovered strength. When I reached Preston, he took my hands in his eyes shining with unshed tears. "You're breathtaking," he whispered. As we exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other through whatever life might bring, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This wasn't just a new chapter, it was a whole new book. The celebrant's voice rang out, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." As Preston's lips met mine, cheers erupted from our guests. I could hear Fiona's enthusiastic whooping and my parents' joyful sobs. During the reception, as Preston and I swayed to our first dance, I caught sight of a familiar face at the edge of the yard. Devon stood there, looking lost and uncertain. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I felt a flicker of something. Not regret or longing, but a quiet acknowledgement of our shared past and the vastly different paths we now walked. He nodded once, a silent gesture of, "What? Apology? Acceptance?" Then he turned and disappeared into the night. I tightened my arms around Preston, feeling grateful for the journey that had led me to this moment. "Thank you," I whispered. He pulled back slightly, his brow furrowed in confusion. "For what?" "For loving me, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself, for being patient while I found my way back to who I really am." Preston's eyes softened. "Evie, loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. You're the strongest, most incredible person I know. I'm the lucky one here." As the night wore on, surrounded by the warmth of friends and family, I found myself reflecting on the incredible journey of the past year. I had faced my deepest fears, confronted my past, and emerged stronger than I ever thought possible. Looking around at the smiling faces of my loved ones, Fiona raising her glass in a toast, my parents beaming with pride, and Preston gazing at me with pure adoration, I realized that this was more than just a happy ending. It was a new beginning, full of promise and possibility. I had shattered the echoes of my past and built something beautiful from the pieces. Leaned to Preston's embrace, I knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, I was ready to face them. Not as the woman I once was, but as the woman I had become. This was my story, my life, and for the first time in forever, I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. I stood in Jasper's study, my hands trembling as I clutched the letter. The words blurred before my eyes, but their meaning was crystal clear. My sister Mara's flowery handwriting mocked me from the page, each loop and curve a dagger to my heart. "Jas, my love," it began. "Our little miracle is growing stronger every day. I can't wait to start our life together, free from the chains of the past." The sound of the front door opening jolted me back to reality. Jasper's footsteps echoed through the house, and I steeled myself for the confrontation I never thought I'd face. "Lori, you home?" he called out, his voice carrying that easy charm that had once made me weak in the knees. I stepped out of the study, letter in hand. "In here, Jas?" He appeared in the doorway, his smile faltering as he took in my expression. "What's wrong, honey? Why don't you tell me?" I held up the letter, my voice steadier than I felt. "Or better yet, why don't you explain how my sister is carrying your child?" Jasper's face hardened, all pretense of concern evaporating. "Where did you find that? Does it matter? How long, Jas? How long have you been lying to me?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's been going on for a while now, Lori. I didn't want to hurt you, but didn't want to hurt me." I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign to my ears. "That's rich, coming from the man who's been sleeping with my sister behind my back." "You know why," Jasper said, his tone maddeningly calm. "Mara gives me what you can't. A future. A family." The words hit me like a physical blow. "So that's it? My infertility means I'm not worthy of your love?" "It's not just about that," he argued, but I could see the truth in his eyes. "Mara and we connect on a level you and I never did." I felt my world crumbling around me. "Get out," I whispered. "Lori, be reasonable. We need to talk about this like adults." "Get out," I screamed, hurling the letter at him. "I don't want to see your face ever again." Jasper held up his hands in surrender. "Fine, I'll go stay with Mara tonight. We can discuss this when you've calmed down." As he turned to leave, a thought struck me. "Wait, does Mom know about this?" He paused in the doorway. "Ellie? Yeah, she knows. She's been supportive, actually." The final betrayal. I sank to the floor as Jasper's footsteps faded away, leaving me alone with my shattered illusions. Hours passed in a blur of tears and disbelief. When my phone rang, I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Lori? It's Diane from the spa. I was wondering if you'd like to come in for a treatment tomorrow. You sounded stressed during your last visit, and I thought you could use some pampering." I hesitated, then made a decision. "Actually, Diane, that sounds perfect. I could use a friend right now." "Of course, dear. Is everything all right?" "No," I admitted. "But maybe it will be, eventually. I'll see you tomorrow." As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked lost, broken. But beneath the pain, I saw a flicker of something else. Determination. Jasper and Mara thought they had won. My own mother had chosen their side, but they had no idea what they'd awakened in me. Tomorrow, I'd start picking up the pieces, and then I'd show them all exactly what Lorraine Harper was capable of. I climbed into bed, my mind racing with possibilities. For the first time in years, I felt truly awake. The game had changed, and I was ready to play. The spa's tranquil atmosphere felt like a slap in the face. How dare the world be so calm when my life was in shambles? I sank into a plush chair in the waiting area, my body tense despite the soothing music. "Lori?" Diane's warm voice broke through my thoughts. "I'm so glad you came. You look like you could use some TLC." I managed a weak smile. "You have no idea." As Diane led me to a private room, I caught a glimpse of a familiar face in the mirror. Mara, my sister, the betrayer. She was lounging in a robe, her hand resting on her slightly swollen belly. Our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of, was it guilt? No, it was triumph. "Lori." Mara's voice dripped with false sweetness. "What a surprise to see you here. How are you holding up?" I clenched my fists, willing myself to stay calm. "Just fine, Mara. How's the baby?" Her smile widened. "Growing stronger every day. Jas is over the moon." The casual mention of my husband's name sent a jolt of pain through me. "I'm sure he is." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Really, Lori, you should have seen this coming. Jas needs more than you can give." I felt something snap inside me. "And you think you're what he needs? A backstabbing sister who'd betray her own family?" "Family?" Mara scoffed. "Please. We both know you've always been the odd one out. Even Mom sees it." Before I could respond, Diane stepped between us. Ladies, this is a place of relaxation. Perhaps we should all take a deep breath. Mara rolled her eyes. Whatever. Enjoy your pity party, Lori. I've got a nursery to plan. As she sauntered away, I felt my legs give out. Diane caught me, guiding me to a nearby chair. Oh, honey, she soothed. I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk about it? The whole story came pouring out. Jasper's betrayal, Mara's pregnancy, my mother's apparent approval of it all. Diane listened without judgment, her kind eyes filled with understanding. When I finished, she took my hands in hers. Lori, listen to me. Sometimes we need to lose everything to find out who we truly are. I blinked back tears. But who am I without them? They've been my whole world for so long. Diane smiled. That's the exciting part. You get to decide. And from what I've seen, you're stronger than you know. As we talked, I felt a tiny spark of hope ignite in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild from this wreckage. Our conversation was interrupted by raised voices from the reception area. Curious, we peeked out to see Mara engaged in a heated argument with a man I didn't recognize. You promised me that money, Aaron, Mara hissed. I need it for the baby. The man, Aaron, looked exasperated. And I told you I can't just embezzle funds whenever you want. It doesn't work that way. Embezzle? My ears perked up. What exactly was my perfect sister involved in? Figure it out, Mara snapped. Or I'll tell everyone about your little side business. Aaron's face paled. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Mara smirked before storming off. I turned to Diane, my mind racing. Did you hear that? She nodded, her expression grave. Sounds like your sister and her friend are mixed up in something illegal. A plan began to form in my mind. If Mara and Jasper thought they could walk all over me, they had another thing coming. It was time to fight fire with fire. Diane, I said, a newfound determination in my voice. I think I need to do some digging. Can you help me? She squeezed my hand. Honey, I thought you'd never ask. Let's show them what happens when they mess with the wrong woman. As we left the spa, I felt a surge of energy. The game had changed, and for once, I held the winning hand. Mara and Jasper wouldn't know what hit them. I stepped into the spa's courtyard, my mind reeling from the encounter with Mara. The lush greenery and trickling water fountain seemed to mock my inner turmoil. As I sank onto a nearby bench, a gentle voice startled me. Excuse me, are you all right? I looked up to see a man in his mid-40s, concern etched on his kind face. I'm fine, I lied, wiping away a stray tear. He sat down beside me, maintaining a respectful distance. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation inside. I'm Aaron, by the way. Aaron Cutler. Lori Harper, I replied, surprised by my willingness to engage. Aaron's eyes widened with recognition. Harper? As in Jasper Harper's wife? My heart clenched. Soon-to-be ex-wife, it seems. He nodded sympathetically. I'm so sorry. Anyone who treats you like they did doesn't deserve you. It's hard to see that now, but I appreciate your kindness, I admitted. Aaron hesitated, then leaned in closer. Listen, Lori, there's something you should know about Jasper and your sister. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? I'm a financial consultant, he explained. I've had dealings with Jasper in the past. He's not who he claims to be. I felt a mix of dread and curiosity. Go on. Aaron took a deep breath. Jasper isn't a surgeon. He's been running a complex investment scam for years, and I suspect Mara's involved too. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. That's impossible. I've seen him in scrubs, heard him talk about surgeries. All part of the act, Aaron said gently. He's fooled a lot of people, Lori, but I have proof. My mind raced, piecing together inconsistencies I'd ignored for years. The late-night phone calls, the unexplained cash, the vague answers about his work. It all suddenly made horrifying sense. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Aaron's eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of guilt and determination. Because I was part of it once. I helped him set up some of the fake accounts. But I got out when I realized how deep it went. I've been trying to make amends ever since. I stood up abruptly, anger and betrayal coursing through me. So you're just as bad as they are. I was, Aaron admitted, standing as well. But I'm trying to make it right. I want to help you, Lori. You deserve to know the truth. I paced the courtyard, my emotions in turmoil. How can I trust you? How do I know this isn't another lie? Aaron reached into his pocket and pulled out a USB drive. Everything's on here. Bank statements, fake identities, the whole scheme. Take it. Verify it yourself. With shaking hands, I accepted the drive. If this is true, my whole life has been a lie. Not your whole life, Aaron said softly, just the parts involving Jasper and Mara. You're stronger than their deception, Lori. I can see that. As I clutched the USB drive, a strange calm settled over me. Thank you, Aaron. I don't know if I can trust you yet, but thank you for this. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Take your time, and if you need anything, advice, support, or just someone to talk to, I'm here. As Aaron turned to leave, a thought struck me. Wait, you said Mara's involved too. How? He hesitated, then said, she's been helping Jasper recruit new investors, using her charm, her connections, the pregnancy. It might be part of their long game. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. My sister, my husband, their betrayal. It was all part of an elaborate con, and I had been the biggest fool of all. I gripped the USB drive tighter, a new resolve hardening within me. Aaron, I called out, I think I'm going to need your help after all. As he turned back, a small smile on his face, I felt the first stirrings of a plan. Jasper and Mara thought they had won, but they had no idea what was coming. The game had changed, and this time I intended to be the one calling the shots. The annual Springfield Harvest Festival buzzed with activity, but I felt like a ghost drifting through the crowd. The cheerful decorations and laughter seemed to mock my pain. I clutched my purse tightly, the USB drive from Aaron burning a hole in its depths. I spotted them before they saw me, Jasper, Mara, and my mother Ellie, huddled together near the apple bobbing station. They looked like the perfect family unit, and bile rose in my throat. Taking a deep breath, I approached. Well, isn't this cozy? Their heads snapped up in unison. Jasper's easy smile faltered, while Mara's hand instinctively went to her slightly swollen belly. Lori, dear, my mother said, her voice overly bright, we didn't expect to see you here. Clearly, I replied, my tone icy. I wouldn't want to interrupt this little family gathering. Jasper stepped forward, his charm offensive in full swing. Now, Lori, there's no need for dramatics. We're all adults here. I laughed, the sound harsh and unfamiliar. Adults? Is that what you call lying, cheating, and stealing? Mara's eyes widened. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, pulling up the incriminating documents Aaron had provided. I know everything. The investment scam, the fake surgeon act, all of it. The color drained from Jasper's face. Mara looked like she might faint. My mother stepped between us, her voice low and urgent. Lori, you need to stand up for yourself. Don't let them walk all over you. But not here. Not like this. I stared at her, incredulous. Now you want me to stand up for myself? After years of favoring Mara, of criticizing every decision I've made? I never meant to. Ellie began, but I cut her off. Save it. You never believed in my strength. Maybe it's time I show it to you. I turned to the growing crowd of onlookers. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. Jasper grabbed my arm. Lori, don't do this. Think about what you're doing. I wrenched free from his grip. Oh, I've thought about it for days, and now everyone's going to know exactly who you are. As I opened my mouth to expose their lies, a commotion erupted nearby. 2 police officers pushed through the crowd, heading straight for us. Jasper Harper, one of them called out. We need you to come with us. Jasper's face contorted with rage. He glared at me. What have you done? I shook my head, genuinely confused. This isn't me. As the officers handcuffed Jasper, explaining his rights, I caught sight of Aaron in the distance. He gave me a subtle nod before disappearing into the crowd. Mara collapsed into my mother's arms, sobbing dramatically. What's going to happen to the baby? To me? I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. You made your choices, Mara. Now you have to live with them. As the officers led Jasper away, the festival dissolved into chaos. People whispered and pointed, their shocked faces a blur around me. My mother approached, her expression a mix of regret and admiration. Lori, I'm sorry for everything. I met her gaze, years of hurt and resentment bubbling to the surface. It's a start, Mom, but we have a long way to go. As the adrenaline wore off, I found myself at a crossroads. I had the power to destroy Mara's reputation, to expose every sordid detail of their scheme. But was that really what I wanted? I watched as Mara was escorted away by concerned friends, her perfectly crafted world crumbling around her. In that moment, I made a decision. Revenge wasn't the answer. I needed to focus on rebuilding my own life, not tearing down theirs. With a deep breath, I turned away from the scene of my family's public implosion. It was time to write my own story, one that didn't revolve around their betrayal. As I walked away from the festival, I felt lighter than I had in years. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it was mine to shape. I stood in the middle of my living room, barely recognizing the space around me. Gone were the family photos, the knickknacks Jasper and I had collected over the years. In their place stood sleek, modern furniture and abstract art pieces that spoke of independence and new beginnings. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Aaron stood on the porch, a file tucked under his arm and concern etched on his face. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "I was just admiring my handiwork." Aaron whistled as he entered. "Quite the transformation. It suits you, Lori." We settled on the new couch, the leather cool against my skin. Aaron spread the contents of his file on the coffee table, bank statements, emails, and photographs that painted a damning picture of Jasper and Mara's deception. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Aaron asked, his voice gentle. "Once we start, there's no going back." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. They made us think they were invincible. It's time to show them they're not. Aaron nodded, a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. "For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave. Not many people would have the strength to fight back like this." As we pored over the documents, formulating our plan, a realization hit me. "Wait a minute," I said, pointing to a series of transactions. "These dates? They line up with when Jasper claimed to be at medical conferences." Aaron leaned in, his brow furrowed. "You're right. It looks like he was actually meeting with investors in the Cayman Islands." The betrayal cut deep, reopening wounds I thought had started to heal. All those times I was home alone, thinking he was saving lives, he was just lining his pockets. Aaron's hand found mine, a comforting warmth. "I'm so sorry, Lori. You didn't deserve any of this." For a moment, I let myself lean into his support. Then, straightening up, I said, "For the first time, I'm ready to fight back. Where do we start?" We spent hours crafting our strategy, deciding which pieces of information to leak and to whom. By the time Aaron left, night had fallen, and a sense of nervous anticipation filled the air. The next morning, I put our plan into action. A casual conversation with my gossipy neighbor about Jasper's frequent business trips. A pointed question to a mutual friend about Mara's sudden influx of cash. Small seeds of doubt planted carefully in fertile social soil. Days passed, and whispers began to circulate. I watched from the sidelines as Jasper and Mara's carefully constructed facade began to crack. Their invitations to social events became less frequent. People started to ask questions they couldn't easily answer. But as satisfaction bloomed in my chest, so did an unexpected pang of guilt. Was I any better than them, manipulating the truth for my own ends? My phone buzzed with a text from Mara. "We need to talk. Meet me at Mom's house tomorrow, please." I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to continue with our plan unabated. But another part, a part I thought had died with Jasper's betrayal, urged me to hear her out. As I debated my response, another text came through, this time from Aaron. "Big breakthrough. Found evidence of major fraud. This could put them away for good." My heart raced. This was it, the final nail in their coffin. With this information, I could destroy them completely. Isn't that what I wanted? But as I looked around my newly redecorated home, symbols of my independence surrounding me, I realized something. The woman who had started this revenge plot wasn't the same woman standing here now. I had changed, grown stronger. Did I really need to tear them down to build myself up? With trembling fingers, I typed out 2 responses. "To Mara, I'll be there. To Aaron, we need to talk. Can you come over?" As I hit send on both messages, I knew I was at a crossroads. The next 24 hours would determine not just Jasper and Mara's fate, but my own. It was time to decide what kind of person I wanted to be in this new chapter of my life. Setting my phone down, I walked to the window, watching the sun set on another day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face them head on. The church basement hummed with tension as I stepped inside. Every eye in the room turned to me, a mix of curiosity and concern on their faces. This wasn't just another community meeting. It was the moment of truth. Jasper and Mara sat near the front, their heads close together, in whispered conversation. My mother, Ellie, sat a few rows behind them, her face a mask of worry. Aaron caught my eye from the back of the room and gave me a subtle nod of encouragement. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. Now that we're all here, let's begin. We've gathered to discuss the recent allegations that have been circulating in our community. My heart pounded as I stood, my legs shaky but my resolve firm. If I may, Pastor, I'd like to address those allegations directly. Jasper's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. Lori, don't do this. Not here. I ignored him, stepping to the front of the room. For years I've been silent. I've watched as lies were told, as people were deceived, but I can't stay quiet any longer. The room fell silent, all attention focused on me. I took a deep breath and plunged in. Jasper isn't the man you all think he is. Here's the truth. He's not a surgeon. He's never saved a single life. Instead, he's been running an elaborate investment scam, stealing money from this very community. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jasper leapt to his feet, his face contorted with rage. How dare you expose our private life? You're worse than useless. This isn't about our private life, I shot back. This is about the lies you've told everyone in this room, the money you've stolen from our friends and neighbors. I pulled out the documents Aaron had given me, holding them up for all to see. I have proof. Bank statements, fake credentials, everything. Jasper Harper is a fraud, and he's been using all of you to line his own pockets. The room erupted into chaos. People shouted questions, demanding explanations. Mara burst into tears, her hands protectively cradling her pregnant belly. And what about you, Mara? I turned to my sister, my voice breaking. Did you know? Were you part of this from the beginning? Mara's silence was all the answer anyone needed. As the truth sank in, I watched the community I'd grown up in grapple with the betrayal. Some people wept openly, others demanded justice. Through it all, Jasper stood defiant, his charm replaced by cold fury. You'll regret this, Lori. He hissed as two men from the congregation restrained him. I'll make sure of it. But his threats fell flat. For the first time I saw Jasper for what he truly was, a small, desperate man whose house of cards had finally collapsed. As the meeting dissolved into heated discussions and calls to involve the authorities, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was my mother. Lori, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I had no idea. All this time, I thought, I'm so sorry. I wanted to fall into her arms, to let years of hurt and resentment melt away, but the wound was still too fresh. It's a start, Mom, but we have a long way to go. As I turned to leave, exhausted and emotionally drained, I caught sight of Aaron making his way towards me. But before he could reach me, Mara intercepted him. You, she spat, her face twisted with anger. You're the one who gave her the information, aren't you? You'll pay for this, Aaron. I swear it. The venom in her voice made me freeze. There was something in her eyes, a desperation, a darkness I'd never seen before. In that moment, I realized this wasn't over, not by a long shot. As I stepped out into the cool night air, the weight of what I'd done hit me full force. I'd exposed the truth, yes, but at what cost? And what would Mara do next, now that she had nothing left to lose? The battle was won, but I had a sinking feeling that the war was far from over. The old family cabin loomed before me, a weathered sentinel guarding decades of memories. I hesitated at the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the knob. Inside, I knew Mara and Mom waited. This meeting, a last-ditch effort to salvage what remained of our fractured family. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. The musty air hit me like a wave, carrying with it the ghosts of summers past. Mara sat rigidly on the threadbare couch, her pregnant belly a stark reminder of her betrayal. Mom paced by the fireplace, worry etched deep in the lines of her face. Lori, Mom said, relief evident in her voice, you came. I nodded curtly, unable to muster a smile. Let's get this over with. Mara's eyes flashed with anger. Get what over with? Your little revenge tour? Destroying everything we've built? Everything you've built? I laughed bitterly. You mean the lies, the manipulation, the theft? You're just jealous, Mara spat. You've always envied me. My looks, my success, and now Jasper. The words hit me like a physical blow, reopening old wounds. Envied you? Is that what you think this is about? Mom stepped between us, her voice pleading. Both of you need to stop. This isn't what family should be. Family? I echoed, years of pent-up hurt and resentment bubbling to the surface. When have we ever been a real family, Mom? When you constantly praised Mara while criticizing every move I made, when you turned a blind eye to her affair with my husband. Mom recoiled as if slapped. I never meant to make you feel that way, Lori. I was just trying to push you to be your best. By tearing me down at every turn? I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. Do you have any idea what that did to me? The insecurity, the self-doubt? Mara scoffed. Oh, please. You always played the victim. Poor, perfect Lori, so misunderstood. Something inside me snapped. You want to talk about being a victim? Let's talk about the summer I was 12, Mara, the summer camp incident. The color drained from Mara's face. Lori, don't. But I was beyond stopping. The floodgates had opened, and years of suppressed trauma came pouring out. You told everyone I was the one who started the fire in the mess hall. You watched as I was punished, ostracized. But it was you, wasn't it? You were smoking behind the building and dropped the cigarette. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Mara, is this true? Mara's composure crumbled. I was scared. I didn't mean for it to happen. But you let me take the fall. I pressed on, my voice shaking. And that was just the beginning, wasn't it? Every time something went wrong, you found a way to blame me. And Mom, you always believed her. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom sank into a chair, her face ashen. Mara stared at the floor, unable to meet my gaze. I've spent my whole life trying to measure up, I continued, my voice barely above a whisper, trying to be good enough for both of you. But now I see, it was never about me. It was about your own insecurities, your own failings. Mara's head snapped up, her eyes blazing. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? Saint Lori, the long-suffering martyr. No, I said, a strange calm settling over me. I'm not better. I'm just done. Done trying to win your approval, done letting you manipulate me, done with this toxic cycle we call family. I turned to leave, but Mom's voice stopped me. Lori, please, we can fix this. We're family. I paused at the door, my hand on the knob. Maybe someday, Mom, but not today. Today, I choose me. As I stepped out into the cool evening air, I heard Mara's muffled sobs and Mom's attempts at comfort. Part of me wanted to turn back to try one last time to mend the broken bonds. But I knew, deep in my heart, that some fractures run too deep to heal. Walking away from the cabin, I felt simultaneously lighter and more burdened than ever before. The truth was out, the wounds laid bare. But what would rise from the ashes of this final confrontation? Only time would tell. I stood in the center of my new apartment, surrounded by friends and the symbols of my rebirth. The walls, once bare, now held artwork that spoke of strength and new beginnings. Every corner reflected the woman I'd become, resilient, independent, and finally truly myself. As I gazed around the room, my eyes met Aaron's. He smiled warmly, and I felt a flutter in my chest that had nothing to do with anxiety. It was hope, pure and simple. Diane raised her glass, her eyes twinkling. To new beginnings, she proclaimed, and to never letting anyone dim your light. The room echoed with cheers and the clinking of glasses. I took a sip of champagne, savoring the moment. Speech, someone called out, and suddenly all eyes were on me. I cleared my throat, surprised to find that I wasn't nervous. A few months ago, I thought my life was over. I'd lost my husband, my sister, and in many ways, my sense of self. I felt useless. The room fell silent, hanging on my every word. But standing here now, I realized that what I thought was an ending was really just a beginning. I found strength I never knew I had, and it's just the beginning. As I spoke, I caught sight of a familiar face slipping into the back of the room. Mom. Our eyes met, and I saw a mixture of pride and regret in her gaze. Taking a deep breath, I continued. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who stand by you, who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. I gestured to the friends around me, Diane, who had been my rock, my coworkers who had supported me through the darkest days, and Aaron, whose unwavering faith in me had helped me find my own strength. To all of you, thank you. You've shown me what true family looks like. As the applause died down, I made my way through the crowd to where Mom stood. Lori, she said, her voice thick with emotion, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so sorry for everything. I hesitated for a moment, then pulled her into a hug. It's okay, Mom. We're both learning and growing. She pulled back, wiping away a tear. I have something for you, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a letter from my boss, offering me a promotion to regional manager. I looked at Mom, confused. I may have put in a good word, she admitted. It's time someone recognized your true worth. Before I could respond, Aaron appeared at my side. Everything okay? He asked, his hand finding the small of my back. I nodded, introducing him to Mom. As they chatted, I marveled at how natural it felt. This new dynamic, this new life. The party continued around us, but I found myself drawn to the balcony. As I stepped outside, the cool night air kissed my skin. The city stretched out before me, a tapestry of lights and possibilities. Aaron joined me, his presence a comforting warmth at my side. "Penny for your thoughts," he asked softly. I turned to him, really seeing him for the first time. "I was just thinking about how far I've come, how different everything is now." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "You're an incredible woman, Lori. I hope you know that." In that moment, with the city lights twinkling and the sounds of laughter drifting from inside, I made a decision. I leaned in and kissed him, soft and sweet. When we parted, both a little breathless, I smiled. I'm starting to believe it. As we stood there, hand in hand, I realized that this wasn't just an ending to my old life. It was the beginning of something beautiful and new. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in my life, I was excited to see where it would lead. I had lost so much, a husband, a sister, the family I thought I knew. But in their place, I had gained something far more precious, myself. And with that newfound strength, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future stretched out before me, bright and full of promise, and I was ready to embrace it, one day at a time. I stared at the crumpled note in my hand, my heart pounding. The looping handwriting was unfamiliar, but the words were unmistakable. "Can't wait to see you again, my love." It wasn't addressed to me. "Beth, you okay in there?" Adam's voice carried from downstairs, snapping me back to reality. I quickly shoved the note into my pocket and took a deep breath. "Coming!" I called back, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. I gave myself a quick once-over in the mirror, smoothing my hair and plastering on a smile. Just another day in the life of Beth Thompson, loving wife and dedicated mother. As I descended the stairs, I could hear Adam on the phone, his voice low and urgent. "I told you, not now. I'll call you back later." He hung up abruptly as I entered the kitchen. "Everything all right?" I asked, busying myself with making coffee. Adam's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just work stuff. You know how it is." I did know. It was always work stuff these days. I poured 2 mugs of coffee and slid one across the counter to him. "Speaking of work, I was thinking we could take a long weekend soon. Maybe go up to the lake house?" Adam's fingers tightened around the mug. "I don't know, Beth. Things are pretty hectic at the office right now." "They're always hectic," I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. "When was the last time we did something as a family?" He sighed, checking his watch. "Can we talk about this later? I'm running late." Before I could respond, our daughter Emma burst into the kitchen, backpack in tow. "Mom, did you sign my permission slip?" I blinked, momentarily thrown. "Permission slip?" Emma rolled her eyes. "For the field trip next week?" "I told you about it yesterday." I fumbled in my purse for a pen, feeling Adam's impatient gaze on me. "Here you go, sweetie. Have a great day at school." As Emma dashed out the door, Adam grabbed his briefcase. "I've got a late meeting tonight. Don't wait up." "Adam, wait." But he was already gone, the front door slamming behind him. I slumped against the counter, the house suddenly too quiet. The note in my pocket felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric. I pulled it out, reading the words again. My fingers itched to call Adam to demand an explanation. But what if I was jumping to conclusions? The doorbell jolted me from my thoughts. I hastily shoved the note back into my pocket and went to answer it. My neighbor Jane stood on the porch, a plate of muffins in her hands. "Good morning, Beth. I thought you could use a pick-me-up." I managed to smile, ushering her inside. "You're a lifesaver, Jane. Come on in." We settled at the kitchen table, and Jane's keen eyes didn't miss a thing. "What's wrong, dear? You look like you've seen a ghost." I hesitated, then pulled out the note. "I found this in Adam's jacket pocket this morning." Jane's eyebrows shot up as she read it. "Oh, honey, I don't know what to think," I admitted, my voice cracking. "Things have been off lately. But this..." Jane reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Now, don't go jumping to conclusions. Have you talked to Adam about it?" I shook my head. "I don't know how. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm not?" You need to confront him, Jane said firmly. You deserve the truth, Beth. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Adam. Working late again. Don't hold dinner. I showed Jane the message, feeling a mix of anger and despair. How am I supposed to confront him when he's never even here? Jane's eyes hardened. Then you make him be here. It's time to take control, Beth. You can't let this eat away at you. I nodded, a plan already forming in my mind. You're right. I'll invite him to lunch tomorrow. Neutral ground. That's my girl, Jane said, patting my hand. And remember, I'm right next door if you need anything. As Jane left, I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. Tomorrow, I'd get my answers. One way or another, things were about to change. I sat at the bustling cafe, my stomach in knots as I waited for Adam. The note burned in my pocket, a constant reminder of why I was here. When he finally walked in, 15 minutes late, his eyes darted around nervously before settling on me. Beth, what's this about? Adam asked, sliding into the seat across from me. I've got a meeting in an hour. I took a deep breath. I found something, Adam, in your jacket pocket. I pulled out the note and slid it across the table. His face paled as he read it. Beth, I can explain. Please do, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, because right now I'm having a hard time believing this isn't what it looks like. Adam ran a hand through his hair. It's not. It's from Lisa, my new assistant. She's been going through a tough time, and I've been mentoring her. That's all. Mentoring? I repeated, incredulous. With love notes? You're blowing this out of proportion, Adam said, his tone dismissive. Lisa's just grateful for my help. You're letting your insecurities get the best of you. His words stung, but I pressed on. Then why hide it? Why all the late nights and secretive phone calls? Adam's eyes flashed with anger. Because I knew you'd react like this. You're always jumping to conclusions, Beth. Maybe if you focused more on our family instead of imagining problems. Imagining? I cut him off, my voice rising. You're never home, Adam. When was the last time you had dinner with us, or helped Emma with her homework? He glanced at his watch, clearly agitated. I'm working hard to provide for this family. Speaking of which, have you seen our credit card bill lately? Your grocery spending is out of control. I blinked, thrown by the sudden change of subject. What are you talking about? Adam pulled out his phone, scrolling through something before shoving it in my face. Look at this. $800 last month on groceries alone. It's ridiculous, Beth. We have a growing teenager, I defended, feeling my cheeks flush, and I buy quality ingredients. We can't afford your gourmet experiments anymore, Adam snapped. From now on, I want you to stick to a strict budget, $100 a month for groceries. I stared at him, speechless. That's impossible, Adam. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious, he said, standing up. Figure it out, Beth. I've got to go. As he walked away, leaving me sitting there stunned, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see Lisa standing there, a sympathetic smile on her face. Mrs. Thompson? I'm Lisa, Adam's assistant. He asked me to drop off these files for him. She handed me a folder, her eyes flickering to the note still on the table. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. I studied her face, searching for any sign of guilt or deception. She was younger than I expected, probably in her early 30s, with a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Not at all, Lisa, I said, forcing a smile. Thank you for bringing these by. As she walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her relationship with Adam than he was letting on. The way she looked at the note, the familiarity in her voice when she mentioned Adam's name, it all felt off. I gathered my things, my mind reeling from the confrontation with Adam and the unexpected appearance of Lisa. As I stepped out onto the sidewalk, my phone buzzed with a text from Jane. How did it go? Come over if you need to talk. I typed back a quick reply. On my way. You won't believe what just happened. Walking to Jane's house, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Anger at Adam's dismissal of my concerns, hurt at his accusations, and a growing determination to prove him wrong about the grocery budget. If he wanted me to cut costs, I'd show him just how creative I could be. Little did I know, this challenge would be the spark that would ignite a whole new chapter in my life. One that would test my resilience, showcase my skills, and ultimately lead me down a path I never expected. I stood in the grocery store, staring at the shelves with a mixture of determination and frustration. $100 for a month's worth of groceries seemed impossible, but I was determined to prove Adam wrong. "You can do this, Beth," I muttered to myself, grabbing a basket and heading to the produce section. As I carefully selected the cheapest vegetables, my phone buzzed. It was Emma. "Mom, where's dinner? I'm starving." I glanced at my watch, realizing how late it had gotten. "I'll be home soon, sweetie. How about we try something new tonight?" An idea struck me. I quickly snapped a photo of my sparse basket and posted it on social media with the caption, "Challenge accepted. $100 grocery budget for the month. Who says you can't eat well on a budget? Frugal feast." Back home, I got to work in the kitchen, determined to make something delicious out of my limited ingredients. As the aroma of garlic and herbs filled the air, Emma wandered in. "What are you making?" she asked, peering into the pot. "Lentil and vegetable soup," I replied, stirring the bubbling mixture. "And homemade bread." Emma wrinkled her nose. "Lentils? Gross." "Just try it," I urged, ladling out a small portion for her. To my surprise, Emma's eyes widened after the first spoonful. "This is actually really good, Mom." Encouraged, I snapped a photo of the finished meal and posted it online. By the time Adam came home, late as usual, my phone was buzzing with notifications. "What's all that about?" he asked, eyeing my phone suspiciously. I showed him the posts. "I'm documenting my $100 grocery challenge. People seem interested." Adam scoffed. "Social media won't pay the bills, Beth." I bit back a retort, focusing instead on the positive comments flooding my feed. People were asking for recipes, tips, and more photos. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into the challenge. Each meal became an opportunity to showcase my creativity. I experimented with new recipes, turning simple ingredients into gourmet dishes. My social media following grew rapidly, with people from all over sharing their own budget-friendly meal ideas. One evening, as I was putting the finishing touches on a particularly photogenic casserole, Jane called. "Beth, have you checked your email?" she asked excitedly. "No, why?" "There's a local cooking show interested in featuring you. They want you to do a segment on budget-friendly cooking." My heart raced. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. This could be big, Beth." As I hung up, still in shock, Adam walked in. "Who was that?" I told him about the cooking show offer, unable to contain my excitement. Adam's face darkened. "You're not seriously considering this, are you? It's just a hobby, Beth. You need to focus on our family, not chasing some pipe dream." His words hit me like a slap. "A pipe dream, Adam? People are genuinely interested in what I'm doing. This could be an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" he interrupted. "To embarrass yourself on TV? To neglect your responsibilities here at home?" I felt my anger rising. "My responsibilities? I've been managing this household on a shoestring budget while you're never home. I'm creating something for myself, something that could actually help people." Adam's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, his expression changing. "I have to go. We'll discuss this later." As he rushed out, I caught a glimpse of his screen, a text from Lisa, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My stomach dropped. Despite my suspicions, seeing it in black and white felt like a punch to the gut. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I picked up my phone and dialed the number for the cooking show. "Hello, this is Beth Thompson. I'd love to do the segment on budget-friendly cooking." As I hung up, I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. I was stepping into uncharted territory, but for the first time in years, I felt alive. Whatever Adam was up to with Lisa, whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them head-on. Little did I know, this decision would be the first step on a journey that would change my life forever. The studio lights were hot on my face as I demonstrated how to make a hearty bean stew for under $5. My hands moved confidently, chopping vegetables and explaining each step to the camera. As the segment wrapped up, the host turned to me with a beaming smile. "Beth, that was fantastic. Your tips are going to help so many families. How does it feel to be our new rising culinary star?" I laughed, feeling a mixture of pride and disbelief. It's surreal, honestly. I'm just glad I can help people eat well on a budget. As I left the studio, my phone buzzed with notifications. My social media following had exploded overnight, and my inbox was flooded with messages from viewers asking for more recipes and advice. I was so engrossed in responding to comments that I almost missed Adam's text. "Where are you? Emma's recital starts in 30 minutes." My heart sank. In the whirlwind of the TV appearance, I'd completely forgotten about Emma's piano recital. I rushed to hail a cab, praying I'd make it in time. I slipped into the auditorium just as Emma was taking her seat at the piano. Adam glared at me from across the room, his disappointment palpable. As Emma's fingers danced across the keys, I felt a mix of pride in her talent and guilt for almost missing this moment. After the recital, Emma ran to me, her face glowing. "Mom, did you see? I didn't mess up once." I hugged her tightly. "You were amazing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." Adam approached, his expression stern. "Nice of you to show up, Beth. Where were you?" Before I could respond, Emma piped up. "Dad, Mom was on TV. My friends saw her cooking show and said it was awesome." Adam's eyes narrowed. "TV show? Is that where you've been all day?" I took a deep breath. "Adam, can we talk about this at home? This is Emma's night." The drive home was tense, with Emma chattering excitedly about her performance while Adam remained silent. Once Emma was in bed, Adam confronted me in the kitchen. "You missed our daughter's recital for a cooking show?" he hissed. "What's gotten into you, Beth?" I felt my anger rising. "I made a mistake, Adam. It won't happen again. But this show, my social media, it's becoming something real. I'm helping people, and for once, I feel like I'm doing something for myself." Adam scoffed. "For yourself? What about our family? While you're playing chef on TV, who's taking care of things at home?" "I am," I shot back. "I'm still managing everything here, plus bringing in extra money. When was the last time you were home for dinner or helped Emma with her homework?" Adam's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it reflexively. I caught a glimpse of Lisa's name on the screen. "Another late night at the office?" I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Adam's face hardened. "As a matter of fact, yes. I have a business trip tomorrow. I'll be gone for a few days." "With Lisa?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. Adam's eyes flashed with anger. "Don't start that again, Beth. I told you, there's nothing going on with Lisa." As he stormed out of the kitchen, I felt a mix of hurt and suspicion churning in my gut. Despite Adam's denials, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. The next day, I found myself at the airport, picking up Emma from her school trip. As we waited for her classmates, a familiar voice caught my attention. I turned to see Adam and Lisa walking together, their heads close as they talked in hushed tones. They hadn't noticed me. My heart raced as I watched them disappear into the crowd, heading towards the departure gates. Adam had lied about his business trip. He was leaving with Lisa. In that moment, everything changed. The suspicions I'd been trying to ignore came crashing down on me. I knew I had a decision to make, one that would alter the course of our lives forever. As Emma bounded over to me, oblivious to the turmoil I was feeling, I plastered on a smile. But inside, I was already planning my next move. It was time to face the truth about my marriage, no matter how painful it might be. I paced the living room, my mind racing with the image of Adam and Lisa at the airport. Jane sat on the couch, her eyes filled with concern. "Beth, honey, you need to calm down," she said gently. "You don't know for sure what's going on." I whirled to face her. "Don't I? The secretive phone calls, the late nights, and now this business trip with Lisa? What more proof do I need?" Jane sighed. "If you really want to know the truth, there's only one way to be sure." I stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" "I have a friend," Jane said hesitantly. "He's a private investigator. If you're serious about finding out what Adam's up to, he can help." My heart raced at the thought. Was I really considering hiring a detective to spy on my husband? But then I remembered the look on Adam's face when he lied about his trip, and my resolve hardened. "Give me his number," I said. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and anticipation. While Adam was away, I threw myself into my cooking show and social media presence, using it as a distraction from the gnawing worry in my gut. Finally, the detective called. "Mrs. Thompson, I have the information you requested. Would you like to meet in person?" My hands shook as I drove to the detective's office. He greeted me with a sympathetic smile and handed me a thick envelope. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson," he said softly, "but I think you'll find all the evidence you need in there." I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside were photos of Adam and Lisa together, at restaurants, entering a hotel, even kissing in a park. My world shattered around me as I flipped through image after damning image. "How long?" I managed to choke out. Based on our investigation, the affair has been going on for at least 6 months, the detective replied gently. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of betrayal. I felt sick to my stomach. I drove home in a daze, the envelope of photos burning a hole in my purse. As I walked through the door, I heard Adam's voice from the kitchen. Beth, is that you? I'm home early. I froze, panic rising in my chest. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I needed time to think, to plan. Yeah, it's me, I called back, fighting to keep my voice steady. I'm just going to take a shower. I locked myself in the bathroom, turning on the shower to muffle the sound of my sobs. As the water ran, I pulled out my phone and texted Jane. You were right, he's been cheating. What do I do now? Her response came quickly. Come over. We'll figure this out together. I took a deep breath, composing myself. I had to face Adam, had to pretend everything was normal until I decided my next move. As I walked downstairs, I heard Adam on the phone. I told you, we can't keep doing this, he whispered urgently. Beth's getting suspicious. My blood boiled. Even now, he was talking to Lisa, planning their deception. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I was done being the dutiful wife, always putting everyone else's needs before my own. It was time to take control of my life. I marched into the kitchen, startling Adam. He quickly ended his call, plastering on a guilty smile. Beth, I was just about to come find you. I thought we could have dinner together tonight, just the two of us. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the lies written all over his face. In that moment, I made my decision. Actually, Adam, I said, my voice surprisingly calm, I have plans tonight, and tomorrow I think we need to have a serious talk about our future. The smile fell from his face, replaced by a flicker of fear. Good, I thought. He should be afraid. As I walked out the door, head held high, I felt a strange mix of pain and liberation. The life I had known was over, but a new chapter was about to begin. And this time, I would be the one writing the story. I stood in the kitchen, my hands shaking as I prepared dinner. It wasn't the usual gourmet meal I'd become known for on my cooking show. No, tonight was different. Tonight, everything would change. The front door opened, and Adam's voice called out, Beth, I'm home. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. In the kitchen, I replied, my voice surprisingly calm. Adam walked in, loosening his tie. He paused, taking in the scene before him, a simple meal of beans and rice on the table. What's this? He asked, confusion evident in his voice. I met his gaze. Dinner. On the budget you insisted upon. He frowned, reaching for his phone. I'll just order something. No, I said firmly. This is what we can afford now. Sit down, Adam. We need to talk. Reluctantly, he took a seat. I placed a plate in front of him and sat across the table, my heart pounding. Beth, what's going on? Adam asked, pushing the food around his plate. I took a deep breath. I know about Lisa, Adam. I know everything. The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? Don't, I said, my voice cracking. Don't lie to me anymore. I have proof. I pulled out the envelope of photos and slid it across the table. Adam's hands trembled as he opened it, his eyes widening as he flipped through the damning evidence. Beth, I can explain. Save it. I cut him off. I don't want to hear any more lies. What I want to know is why. Why wasn't I enough? Adam's shoulders slumped. It's not that simple. You've been so focused on your cooking show, your social media, I felt neglected. I laughed bitterly. Neglected? I've been killing myself trying to make ends meet on the ridiculous budget you imposed. I've been taking care of our home, our daughter, while you've been off with your mistress. I'm sorry, Adam whispered. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, I said, my voice growing stronger. And now we have to deal with the consequences. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Adam's eyes widened as I slid it across the table. What's this? He asked, his voice barely audible. Divorce papers, I replied. I want you out of the house by the end of the week. Adam's face contorted with anger. You can't do this. Where am I supposed to go? How will I afford? Figure it out, I snapped, echoing his words from months ago. You managed to afford hotel rooms with Lisa. I'm sure you'll manage. Adam stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This isn't over, Beth. You can't just throw away our marriage like this. I rose to meet his gaze. You threw it away the moment you decided to cheat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a live cooking segment to prepare for. As I turned to leave, Adam grabbed my arm. Beth, please. We can work this out. Think about Emma. I wrenched my arm free. I am thinking about Emma. I'm thinking about the example I want to set for our daughter, and it's not staying with a man who doesn't respect me or our family. Adam's face crumpled. What am I supposed to tell her? The truth, I said, my voice softening slightly. She deserves that much. As Adam slumped back into his chair, defeat written across his face, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of liberation. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving Adam with his cold beans and rice. My phone buzzed with a reminder about my upcoming live segment. As I prepared for the show, I realized that for the first time in years, I was cooking just for me. No more bending over backward to please Adam, no more compromising my passion to fit his expectations. The camera light blinked on, and I plastered on a smile. Welcome back to Frugal Feasts with Beth, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil in my heart. Today, we're going to talk about starting fresh and making the most of what you have. As I began chopping vegetables, I knew that this wasn't just about cooking anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, one ingredient at a time. The days after I served Adam the divorce papers were a blur of emotions and activity. I threw myself into my work, filming more cooking segments and engaging with my growing online community. It was easier to focus on chopping vegetables than to think about the implosion of my marriage. One evening, as I was editing a video for my latest budget-friendly recipe, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Adam standing there, looking disheveled and desperate. "Beth, please," he said, his voice cracking. "We need to talk." Against my better judgment, I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the scene of so many family dinners and recent confrontations. "I've been thinking," Adam began, "and I realize I've made a terrible mistake. I want to make things right. Give us another chance." I felt a flicker of hope, quickly extinguished by the memory of his betrayal. "It's too late for that, Adam." He reached across the table, grasping my hand. "Is it? Think about Emma. Think about our life together. We can work through this." I pulled my hand away. "And what about Lisa?" Adam's face fell. "It's over with her. It was a mistake, Beth. You're the one I want to be with." As he spoke, my phone buzzed with a notification. A major food network was interested in developing a show around my budget-friendly cooking concept. The irony wasn't lost on me. The very thing that had driven a wedge between us was now offering me a lifeline. Adam noticed my distraction. "What is it?" I hesitated, then decided to be honest. "A TV network wants to meet about a potential show." His eyes widened. That's great, Beth. See? This is why we need to stay together. We're a team. I can help you negotiate the contract, manage your career. We can do this together." I felt a surge of anger. "Now you're interested in my career? After months of dismissing it as a hobby?" "I was wrong," Adam pleaded. "I see now how talented you are, how much potential you have. Let me make it up to you." For a moment I wavered. The thought of keeping our family intact, of not having to face the world alone, was tempting. But then I remembered the photos, the lies, the months of feeling inadequate and unloved. "No," I said firmly. "I'm doing this on my own, Adam. I don't need you to manage my career or my life." Adam's face hardened. "You're making a mistake, Beth. You need me. How are you going to handle a TV show and take care of Emma? How will you manage the finances?" His words stung, but they also ignited a fire within me. "The same way I've been managing everything while you were off with Lisa. I'm stronger than you think, Adam." He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You're being selfish, Beth. Think about Emma. She needs both her parents." "Don't you dare use our daughter to manipulate me," I snapped. "Emma needs parents who respect each other and themselves. I'm setting an example for her by not staying in a marriage without trust." Adam's face contorted with anger. "Fine. If that's how you want it, we'll do this the hard way. I'll fight you for everything. The house, custody, alimony. You'll see how much you need me." As he stormed towards the door, I felt a mix of fear and determination. "Adam," I called out. He turned, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Don't forget to take your frugal cooking tips with you. You're going to need them." The door slammed behind him, and I sank into a chair, my body shaking. I had just burned the last bridge, cut the final tie to my old life. The reality of what lay ahead, a bitter divorce, a custody battle, launching a TV career, hit me like a tidal wave. But as I sat there surrounded by the remnants of my cooking experiments and the tools of my newfound passion, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving on a shoestring budget anymore. I was thriving. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them on my own terms. I picked up my phone and dialed the network executive's number. It was time to write the next chapter of my life, and this time I'd be the one holding the pen. I stood backstage, my heart pounding as I listened to the roar of the studio audience. It had been a whirlwind year since I'd signed the deal for my own cooking show, Frugal Feasts with Beth. The divorce had been finalized, the custody battle settled, and now here I was about to film the season finale. "You're on in 5, Beth," the stage manager called. I took a deep breath, smoothing my apron. As I stepped onto the set, the familiar warmth of the studio lights washed over me. The audience applauded, and I felt a surge of confidence. "Welcome back to Frugal Feasts," I began, smiling into the camera. "Today, we're making something special, a meal that represents new beginnings and the strength we find in ourselves." As I cooked, sharing tips and stories, I thought about how far I'd come. The woman who had once struggled to feed her family on $100 a month was now teaching millions how to create delicious, affordable meals. But it wasn't just about the food anymore. "You know," I said, looking directly into the camera, "when I started this journey, I thought I was just learning to cook on a budget. But I've realized it's about so much more. It's about finding your worth, standing up for yourself, and never letting anyone dim your light." The audience murmured in agreement, and I saw a few women wiping away tears. I thought of all the messages I'd received from viewers. Women who had left abusive relationships, started their own businesses, or simply found the courage to value themselves. As I plated the final dish, a hearty vegetable stew that cost less than $5 to make, I felt a lump form in my throat. "This meal," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "is dedicated to every person out there who's ever felt trapped, undervalued, or alone. You are stronger than you know, and you deserve to thrive, not just survive." The audience erupted in applause, and as the director called, "Cut!" I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. I'd done it. I'd not only survived, but flourished. After the show, as I was gathering my things in the dressing room, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Emma and Jane standing there beaming. "Mom, you were amazing," Emma exclaimed, throwing her arms around me. Jane hugged me too, her eyes shining with pride. "You've come so far, Beth. I always knew you had it in you." As we chatted, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Adam. "Saw the show. You were incredible. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can forgive me someday." I stared at the message, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Part of me wanted to delete it, to erase Adam from my life completely. But another part recognized that forgiveness wasn't about him. It was about freeing myself. I typed a simple reply, "Thank you. I hope you find happiness too." As I hit send, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I turned to Emma and Jane, smiling. "How about we celebrate with dinner? I know a great place where we can eat like queens on a pauper's budget." We laughed together, heading out into the warm evening. As we walked, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From a desperate housewife trying to stretch a meager budget to a successful TV host and author, I had transformed not just my circumstances, but myself. I realized that the real frugal feast wasn't just about the food on our plates. It was about savoring the richness of life, even when resources seemed scarce. It was about finding abundance in unexpected places, in friendship, in family, in the strength we discover within ourselves. As we sat down to our celebratory meal, I raised my glass. "To new beginnings," I said, "and to the feast of life that's always within our reach, if we just have the courage to claim it." Emma and Jane clinked their glasses with mine, and in that moment I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them. I had found my recipe for happiness, and I was eager to share it with the world, one frugal, fabulous meal at a time. I settled deeper into my favorite armchair, losing myself in the pages of my novel. The house was quiet, save for the gentle hum of the air conditioner and the occasional rustle as I turned a page. Perfect. Just the way I liked it. The front door slammed, shattering my peace. I jumped, nearly dropping my book. "Sarah, you home?" Max's voice rang out, tension evident in his tone. I sighed, marking my place. "In here, honey." Max appeared in the doorway, his face drawn and pale. My stomach clenched. Whatever news he had, it wasn't good. "We need to talk," he said, perching on the edge of the coffee table in front of me. I set my book aside. "What's wrong?" He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I'd noticed early in our relationship. "It's my mom. She wants us to move in with her and Dad." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What? Why?" "She says Dad's not doing well, that they need help around the house." Max wouldn't meet my eyes. "She called it our duty as their children." I bit back a groan. Linda and her outdated notions of family obligation. "Max, we have our own life here, our jobs, our friends." I know, he held up his hands. "But you know how Mom gets. She won't take no for an answer." The dread I'd been holding at bay washed over me. Linda had never approved of me, of our modern lifestyle. Moving in with her would be a nightmare. "What about Lucy and Corey?" I asked, grasping at straws. "They live closer. Couldn't they help out?" Max shook his head. "Mom says it has to be us. Something about how we don't have kids yet, so we have more free time." I bristled at the implication. "That's not fair. We both work full-time." "I know, Sarah. I'm not happy about this either." Max's shoulders slumped. "But what choice do we have?" I stood up, pacing the room. "We could say no. Set boundaries. Your mom can't force us to uproot our entire lives." Max's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and winced. "It's Mom. She wants an answer by tonight." "Tonight?" I spun to face him. "Max, that's ridiculous. We need time to discuss this." He shrugged helplessly. "You know how she is. Once she gets an idea in her head." I did know. Linda was like a force of nature, steamrolling over anyone who dared to disagree with her, including her own children. "So what do we do?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Max stood, wrapping his arms around me. "I don't know, babe, but we'll figure it out together, okay?" I nodded against his chest, trying to ignore the pit in my stomach. This was only the beginning. I could feel it. The phone buzzed again, making us both jump. Max pulled away, fishing it out of his pocket. "It's Lucy," he said, relief evident in his voice. "She wants to know if we can have dinner tonight, says it's important." I latched onto the lifeline. "Yes, absolutely. Maybe she can talk some sense into your mother." Max nodded, already typing a response. "I'll tell her to come over around 7. That gives us a couple of hours to regroup." As he headed to the kitchen to start dinner preparations, I sank back into my chair. My novel lay forgotten on the side table, its world of fantasy and escape suddenly less appealing than the drama unfolding in my own life. I picked up my phone, hesitating for a moment before pulling up Linda's contact information. My thumb hovered over the call button. Should I try to reason with her myself, or would that only make things worse? Before I could decide, a text from Lucy popped up on my screen. "Hold tight. I have news that might change everything." I stared at the cryptic message, a mix of hope and apprehension swirling in my chest. Whatever Lucy had to say, I had a feeling our quiet, comfortable life was about to be turned upside down. The doorbell rang just as I finished setting the table. I smoothed my hands over my dress, took a deep breath, and went to answer it. Lucy burst in, all smiles and energy. "Sarah, darling." She hugged me tight, then held me at arm's length. "You look stressed. Is everything okay?" Before I could answer, Corey appeared behind her, a bottle of wine in hand. "Hey, Sarah. Where's Max?" "Kitchen," I said, gesturing. "He's just finishing up dinner." As Corey headed off to find Max, Lucy linked her arm through mine. "Okay, spill. What's going on?" I hesitated, then decided to just rip off the Band-Aid. "Your mother wants us to move in with her and your dad." Lucy's eyes widened. "Oh, Sarah. No, you can't." "I know, but," Max's voice interrupted us. "Dinner's ready, everyone." We gathered around the table, an undercurrent of tension thrumming beneath the casual conversation. Finally, as we were finishing our main course, Lucy set down her fork with a clatter. "All right, enough small talk. We need to discuss Mom's ridiculous demand." Max sighed. "Lucy, it's not that simple. Dad's health is fine," Lucy cut in. "I called him this afternoon. He has no idea what Mom's talking about." I felt a flicker of hope. "So, there's no reason for us to move?" Lucy shook her head. "Oh, there's a reason, all right. Just not the one Mom's giving you." Corey leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Mom's on some kind of mission," Lucy said, her voice tight. "She's been calling all her friends, telling them how her dutiful son and daughter-in-law are moving in to care for the family. It's like she's trying to prove something." The hope I'd felt moments ago evaporated. Prove what? Lucy's gaze met mine, sympathy and frustration warring in her eyes. That you're a proper wife, I think. You know how she is about traditional values. I did know, all too well. Every holiday, every family gathering, Linda found some way to criticize our lifestyle, our decision to both work full-time, our choice not to have children yet. Even the way we divided household chores was somehow offensive to her sensibilities. Max's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. We don't have to do this, Sarah. We can say no. Can we? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. You know your mother. She'll make our lives hell if we refuse. She'll make your lives hell if you agree, Lucy countered. Trust me, I've been dealing with her longer than you have. Corey cleared his throat. Maybe there's a compromise? You could offer to help out a few days a week instead of moving in completely. I shook my head. Linda doesn't do compromise. It's all or nothing with her. A heavy silence fell over the table. I pushed my half-eaten dessert away, my appetite gone. There's something else you should know, Lucy said quietly. Mom's been talking. To the family, to her friends. She's painting this picture of you as some kind of rebellious daughter-in-law who needs to be brought to heel. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? Max's grip on my hand tightened. That's ridiculous. Sarah's been nothing but kind to her. Lucy nodded. I know that, you know that, but Mom's spinning this narrative and people are starting to believe it. If you move in with her, she'll have even more ammunition, I finished, feeling sick. Exactly, Lucy said. She'll scrutinize your every move, looking for ways to criticize and correct you. It'll be a nightmare. I looked at Max, seeing the conflict in his eyes. He was torn between loyalty to his parents and protecting me. It wasn't fair to put him in this position. So what do we do? I asked, looking around the table. Lucy leaned forward, her expression determined. We fight back, together. It's time someone stood up to Mom's manipulation. As I looked at the resolute faces around me, I felt a spark of courage ignite in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, we could find a way through this mess. But as the conversation continued, a nagging doubt persisted. Linda had always been formidable, but this level of manipulation felt different. Dangerous, even. What else was she capable of? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the support surrounding me. Whatever came next, at least I wasn't facing it alone. 2 months had passed since we'd moved in with Linda and Dale. Despite my initial reservations, things had been surprisingly peaceful. Linda's overbearing nature seemed to have mellowed, or at least she was better at hiding it. I'd even started to relax, thinking maybe this arrangement could work after all. I should have known better. It started with a twinge in my stomach during dinner. I brushed it off, attributing it to Linda's rich cooking. But as the night wore on, the pain intensified, twisting my insides into knots. Sarah? Max's concerned voice cut through the fog of pain. You're white as a sheet. What's wrong? I tried to answer, but another wave of agony hit, doubling me over. The room spun, faces blurring as I fought to stay conscious. We need to get her to the hospital, I heard Dale say, his voice oddly distant. The next few hours passed in a haze of pain and confusion. Bright lights, worried faces, the sharp smell of disinfectant. I drifted in and out of consciousness, catching snippets of conversation. Severe abdominal pain. Running tests. No clear cause. When I finally came to, Max was sitting by my bedside, his face drawn with worry. Hey, he said softly, taking my hand. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, I croaked. What happened? Max shook his head. They're not sure. The doctors ran a bunch of tests, but nothing's come back conclusive yet. A knock at the door interrupted us. Linda poked her head in, her expression a mask of concern. Oh, Sarah, dear, how are you feeling? I managed a weak smile. I've been better. She tsked sympathetically, moving to stand at the foot of my bed. I was so worried when you collapsed. I can't imagine what could have caused such a terrible reaction. Something in her tone made me pause. Was that a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes? I blinked, and it was gone, replaced by motherly concern. The doctors said they couldn't find anything specific, Max said, his brow furrowed. It's like her system just revolted against something. Linda nodded sagely. Well, sometimes our bodies react in strange ways to new environments. Perhaps it's just the stress of the move catching up with you, dear. I bristled at the implication. I've been fine for 2 months, Linda. This isn't stress. She held up her hands placatingly. Of course. I'm sure the doctors will figure it out soon enough. As if on cue, my doctor entered the room, a puzzled expression on his face. Mrs. Thompson, how are you feeling? Better, I said, struggling to sit up. Any news? He shook his head. I'm afraid not. All your tests have come back normal. There's no sign of infection, no food poisoning, nothing we can pinpoint as the cause of your symptoms. I felt a chill run down my spine. So what does that mean? For now, we'll keep you under observation for another day or two. If nothing else comes up, we'll have to chalk it up to an unexplained episode. As the doctor left, an uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Max squeezed my hand reassuringly, but I could see the worry in his eyes. Linda cleared her throat. Well, I'm sure it's nothing serious. That's probably just a passing bug. I'll go home and prepare some of my special chicken soup for when you're released. It always made Max feel better when he was ill. As she bustled out of the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The way she'd looked at me, that hint of satisfaction I'd glimpsed, and now this mysterious illness that even the doctors couldn't explain. Max, I said quietly once we were alone, I think we need to talk about your mother. He looked at me, confusion evident on his face. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I can't prove anything, but I don't think this was just some random illness. I think. Before I could finish, another wave of pain hit, stealing my breath away. As Max called frantically for the nurse, one thought crystallized in my mind. Something was very, very wrong in that house. And somehow, Linda was at the center of it all. The weeks following my hospital stay were tense. Max hovered, watching my every move with worried eyes. Linda's solicitous attention grated on my nerves. Only Dale seemed normal, offering quiet support without the suffocating concern of the others. I was in the kitchen preparing a light lunch when the familiar cramping hit. My hands trembled as I gripped the counter, willing the pain away. Sarah? Max's voice, tinged with panic. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, just a twinge, but he wasn't buying it. That's it, we're going back to the doctor. No, I said firmly. I'm fine, it's probably just stress. Max ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. This isn't normal, Sarah. You've been sick ever since we moved in here. His words hit me like a thunderbolt. He was right. I'd been fine before we came to live with his parents. But since then... I think, I said slowly, we need to talk about moving out. Max's eyes widened. But my parents are managing just fine, I finished. Your dad's health scare was apparently nothing, and your mom... I trailed off, not wanting to voice my suspicions. Before Max could respond, Linda breezed into the kitchen. Oh, Sarah dear, you look pale. Let me fix you some of my special tea. I stiffened. No, thank you, Linda, I'm not feeling well. I think I'll lie down. As I left the room, I caught a glimpse of something in Linda's eyes. Disappointment, anger, whatever it was, it sent a chill down my spine. That night, as Max and I lay in bed, I turned to him. I don't want to eat dinner with your parents anymore. He propped himself up on an elbow. What? Why? I took a deep breath. Because I think your mother might be poisoning me. The words hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. Max's face cycled through shock, disbelief, and anger. That's ridiculous, he said flatly. My mother would never... Think about it, Max, I interrupted. I only get sick after eating her food. The doctors can't find anything wrong with me. And have you seen the way she looks at me sometimes? Max shook his head. No, I won't believe it. You're stressed. You're imagining things. Am I? I challenged. Then explain why I've been fine all day, but the moment your mother offered me tea, I felt sick again. He fell silent, conflict evident on his face. I pressed on, sensing a crack in his denial. I'm not saying it's definitely her, I said softly. But something's not right here, Max. We need to figure out what's going on. After a long moment, he nodded. Okay, what do you want to do? First, no more meals with your parents. We'll cook for ourselves from now on. Max agreed, albeit reluctantly. As we settled back into bed, my mind raced. If Linda was behind my mysterious illness, how could we prove it? And more importantly, why would she do such a thing? The next morning, I woke to the sound of hushed arguing. Creeping to the door, I listened as Max confronted his mother. Don't understand why you're being so paranoid, Linda was saying. Sarah's just having trouble adjusting. It's not uncommon for young wives to struggle with traditional family dynamics. Mom, she's been hospitalized, Max countered. This isn't about adjusting. Something's wrong and we need to figure out what. Linda's voice turned cold. Are you accusing me of something, Maxwell? No, I don't know, but Sarah and I have decided to prepare our own meals for a while, just until we get this sorted out. The silence that followed was deafening. When Linda spoke again, her voice was eerily calm. I see. Well, if that's what you think is best, but remember, Maxwell, family should always come first. Don't let an outsider come between us. I retreated from the door, my heart pounding. Linda's words confirmed my worst fears. This wasn't just about traditional values or adjusting to family life. There was something far more sinister at play. As I heard Max's footsteps approaching, I made a decision. It was time to take matters into my own hands. Whatever Linda was up to, I was going to expose the truth before it was too late. The doorbell rang, shattering the uneasy quiet that had settled over the house. I tensed, my hand freezing mid-chop as I prepared dinner in our makeshift kitchenette upstairs. I'll get it, Max called, his footsteps echoing down the hall. Moments later, Lucy's voice drifted up the stairs, followed by Corey's deeper tones. I relaxed slightly, grateful for friendly faces. Sarah? Max appeared in the doorway. Lucy and Corey are here. They want to talk to us. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and followed him downstairs, where Lucy and Corey waited in the living room. Linda hovered nearby, a too-bright smile plastered on her face. Lucy, Corey, I greeted them, forcing a smile. What brings you by? Lucy's eyes darted between Max and me, her expression uneasy. We have some news, and an invitation. I sank onto the couch, dread pooling in my stomach. Oh? Corey cleared his throat. We're having an anniversary party next weekend. At your parents' house, he added, nodding to Max. The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the arm of the couch, steadying myself. Here? But... It'll be wonderful, Linda interjected, beaming. I've already started planning the menu. All of Sarah's favorites, of course. I felt the blood drain from my face. Max's hand found mine, squeezing gently. Actually, Mom, he said, his voice tight. Sarah and I have been thinking of going away for a few days. We might not be able to make it. Lucy's brow furrowed. What? But it's our anniversary. You have to be there. I'm sure whatever plans you have can wait, Linda added, her tone sickly sweet. Family comes first, after all. I stood abruptly, my legs shaky. Excuse me, I need some air. I fled to the back porch, gulping in deep breaths of the cool evening air. The door opened behind me, and Lucy stepped out. Sarah? What's going on? She asked softly. You look like you've seen a ghost. I turned to her, tears pricking my eyes. Lucy, I can't eat your mother's food. I think she's been poisoning me. Lucy's eyes widened in shock. What? That's insane. Why would you think that? In a rush, I told her everything. The mysterious illnesses, the doctor's bafflement, the way I only got sick after eating Linda's cooking. Lucy listened in stunned silence. When I finished, she shook her head slowly. Sarah, I know Mom can be difficult, but this is a serious accusation. I know how it sounds, I said desperately, but I swear something's not right. I can feel it. Lucy was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay. Let's say, hypothetically, you're right. What do you want to do about it? I hesitated. I don't know. I can't prove anything. And Max, he wants to believe me, but I can tell he's struggling with the idea. Then we need evidence, Lucy said firmly. And this party might be our chance to get it. I stared at her. What do you mean? If Mom is doing something to your food, she'll probably try again at the party. We can watch her, maybe even catch her in the act. My heart raced at the thought. It was dangerous, but it might be our only chance to uncover the truth. Okay, I said, taking a deep breath. I'll do it. Lucy nodded, her expression grim. I'll talk to Corey. We'll figure out a plan. As we headed back inside, I caught sight of Linda watching us through the window. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. A chill ran down my spine. Back in the living room, Max looked at me questioningly. I squared my shoulders and turned to Linda. We'd love to come to the party, I said, forcing a smile. Thank you for including us. Linda's answering smile didn't reach her eyes. Wonderful. I'll make sure everything is perfect. As Lucy and Corey said their goodbyes, I felt the weight of my decision settling over me. I was walking into the lion's den, risking my health, maybe even my life, to expose the truth. But as I met Linda's cold gaze across the room, I knew I had no choice. It was time to end this, one way or another. The anniversary party was in full swing, the house filled with laughter and chatter. I stood in a corner, my untouched glass of wine a shield against Linda's persistent offers of food. Lucy caught my eye from across the room, giving me a subtle nod. Our plan was in motion. "Sarah, dear," Linda's voice cut through my thoughts, "you simply must try this special dish I made just for you." My heart raced as she approached, carrying a plate of something that smelled divine. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I stood my ground. "It looks wonderful, Linda," I said, forcing a smile, "but I'm not very hungry right now." Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "Nonsense. You've barely eaten all night. Here, just a small bite." As she pressed the plate into my hands, I saw Max watching us intently from across the room. I met his gaze, silently pleading for help. "Mom," he called, striding over, "why don't you let Sarah enjoy the party? She'll eat when she's ready." Linda's smile tightened. "Of course, dear. I'll just leave this here for when you're hungry, Sarah." She set the plate on a nearby table and moved away, but I could feel her eyes on me for the rest of the evening. Hours passed in a haze of tension and forced small talk. I was hyper-aware of every move Linda made, every dish she served. Lucy and Corey kept close, running interference when they could. As the party began to wind down, I slipped into the kitchen for a moment of quiet. The room was empty, dirty dishes piled high in the sink. I leaned against the counter, taking deep breaths to calm my frayed nerves. A muffled thud from the pantry made me jump. Curious, I crept closer, pressing my ear to the door. "Dale?" Linda's voice, hushed but urgent. "Dale, what are you doing in here?" "Just feeling a bit off," Dale's voice replied, sounding strained. "Needed some air." "Well, come out of there. People will talk if they see you hiding in the pantry." The door swung open, and I barely had time to duck behind the island. Through the gap beneath, I saw Dale's unsteady feet, followed by Linda's sensible shoes. "Here," Linda said. "I made you some tea. It'll settle your stomach." "Thanks, dear," Dale mumbled. "I don't know what's come over me. Must have been something I ate." My blood ran cold. The symptoms of sudden illness, it was all too familiar. I peered over the island, watching in horror as Dale lifted the teacup to his lips. Without thinking that, I leapt to my feet. "Dale, don't drink that!" Both Dale and Linda whirled to face me, shock evident on their faces. The teacup slipped from Dale's hand, shattering on the floor. "Sarah?" Dale looked bewildered. What on earth? But his words were cut short as he suddenly doubled over, clutching his stomach, his face contorted in pain, mirroring the agony I'd experienced so many times before. "Dale!" I rushed forward, supporting him as he swayed on his feet. "Max! Lucy! Someone call an ambulance!" The kitchen erupted into chaos. Max and Lucy burst in, followed by a crowd of concerned party guests. As Max helped his father to a chair, I turned to confront Linda, but she was gone. "Where's Mom?" Lucy asked, her voice tight with worry. A cold dread settled over me. If Linda had fled, it could only mean one thing. She knew we were onto her. As the sound of approaching sirens filled the air, I met Max's panicked gaze across the room. In that moment, I saw the last of his doubts crumble away. "Sarah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What's happening?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I think it's time we told everyone the truth about your mother." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to me. As I opened my mouth to speak, I knew that whatever happened next would change our lives forever. The ambulance sirens wailed as we raced through the night, Dale's labored breathing a constant reminder of the urgency of our situation. Max clutched his father's hand, his face a mask of worry and confusion. I sat across from them, my mind racing, trying to piece together the events of the evening. "He'll be okay, right?" Max's voice cracked as he looked at me pleadingly. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The truth was I had no idea. If Linda had been poisoning me all this time, what had she given Dale? And where was she now? As we burst through the emergency room doors, a flurry of activity erupted around us. Doctors and nurses swarmed Dale, whisking him away for tests and treatment. Max moved to follow, but a nurse gently held him back. "Sir, you need to wait here. We'll update you as soon as we can." Max slumped into a chair, his head in his hands. I sat beside him, rubbing his back in small circles. "Sarah," he said, his voice muffled, "what did you mean back there? About telling the truth about my mother?" I took a deep breath. It was time. "Max, I think your mother has been poisoning me, And now, I think she might have done the same to your father." He looked up at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What? No, that's impossible. She wouldn't." "Think about it," I urged. "Every time I got sick, it was after eating something she prepared, and tonight with your father." Max shook his head, but I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. "But why? Why would she do something like that?" Before I could answer, Lucy and Corey burst into the waiting room. "Any news?" Lucy asked breathlessly. We shook our heads. Lucy sank into a chair across from us, her face pale. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered. "And Mom, where is she?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. None of us wanted to voice our suspicions out loud. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional update from a nurse. Dale was stable, they said, but still undergoing tests. They couldn't tell us more. As dawn broke, casting a pale light through the waiting room windows, a doctor approached us. "Family of Dale Thompson?" We all stood, a united front against whatever news was coming. "Mr. Thompson is stable," the doctor began, and I felt a collective sigh of relief. "But we've found something concerning in his blood work. There are traces of a powerful laxative in his system, far beyond what would be considered safe or normal use." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Max stumbled, and I grabbed his arm to steady him. "A laxative?" Lucy's voice was barely above a whisper. "But how?" The doctor looked uncomfortable. "Given the concentration, it's unlikely this was accidental. We've had to report this to the authorities." As if on cue, 2 police officers entered the waiting room, their faces grim. "We need to ask you all some questions," one of them said, "starting with the whereabouts of Linda Thompson." Max turned to me, his face a mixture of shock, betrayal, and dawning realization. "Sarah, you were right. All this time, you were right." I nodded, feeling no satisfaction in the confirmation of my worst fears. "I'm so sorry, Max. I wish I'd been wrong." As the police began their questioning, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number, but I knew instantly who it was from. "You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy now, you ungrateful girl. This isn't over." I showed the message to Max, watching as the last of his doubt crumbled away. His jaw set in a hard line as he turned to the police officers. "Officers," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil I knew he must be feeling. "I think we need to tell you everything, right from the beginning." As Max began to speak, I steeled myself for what was to come. Linda was still out there, angry and desperate. And something told me she wasn't done with us yet. The police escorted us back to Linda and Dale's house, the flashing lights of their cruisers casting eerie shadows across the once familiar facade. As we entered, the remnants of the party stood in stark contrast to the gravity of our mission. "Where should we start?" one of the officers asked. I took a deep breath. "The kitchen. That's where it all happened." As we moved through the house, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Linda's presence seemed to linger in every corner, every shadow. In the kitchen, I headed straight for the pantry. "She always kept her special ingredients in here," I explained, my voice barely above a whisper. The officer opened the door, and there on the top shelf sat an array of innocuous-looking bottles and boxes. But I knew better. "There," I pointed, my hand shaking, "the ones labeled dietary supplements." As the officer carefully bagged the evidence, Max let out a choked sob. "I can't believe this. All this time." I wrapped my arm around him, offering what little comfort I could. "I'm so sorry, Max." Suddenly, a noise from upstairs made us all freeze. Footsteps, then a muffled curse. "Linda," Max breathed, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and anger. The officers drew their weapons, motioning for us to stay back. But as they moved towards the stairs, a figure appeared at the top. Linda stood there, her usually immaculate appearance disheveled, her eyes wild. When she saw us, her face contorted with rage. "You," she spat, her gaze fixed on me. "You've ruined everything." Before anyone could react, she charged down the stairs. I braced myself for impact, but Max stepped in front of me, his voice firm. "Enough, Mom. It's over." Linda froze, her eyes darting between Max and me. "Max, honey, you don't understand. I was trying to protect you, to keep our family together." "By poisoning Sarah?" Max's voice cracked. "By hurting Dad?" Linda's face crumpled. "I never meant to hurt Dale. He wasn't supposed to eat that food. It was for her." She jabbed a finger at me. As the officers moved to restrain Linda, the full weight of what had happened crashed over me. This woman, who was supposed to be family, had systematically tried to destroy me. And in the process, she'd nearly killed her own husband. Why? I asked, my voice barely audible. Why did you hate me so much? Linda's eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw something like regret flicker across her face. You were taking my son away, changing him. I couldn't let that happen. As the officers led Linda away, reading her rights, Max turned to me. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I shook my head, pulling him close. You believe me now? That's what matters. In the days that followed, the truth came out in bits and pieces. The laxatives in the kitchen were just the tip of the iceberg. Linda had been slowly poisoning me for months, escalating her efforts when she realized I was growing suspicious. Dale, thankfully, made a full recovery. When he learned the truth about Linda's actions, he was devastated, but resolute in his support of Max and me. In the end, faced with overwhelming evidence, Linda accepted a plea deal. She would pay restitution, $30,000 to cover my medical expenses and lost wages, and undergo mandatory psychiatric treatment. It wasn't the justice I'd imagined, but it was something. As Max and I packed up our things, preparing to move back to our own home, I paused in the doorway of what had been our bedroom. So much had changed in such a short time. Are you ready? Max asked, coming up behind me. I turned to face him, seeing the mix of pain and hope in his eyes. I think so. Are you? He nodded, taking my hand. It won't be easy, but we'll get through this, together. As we walked out of the house, leaving behind the shadows of the past few months, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Linda's actions had nearly torn this family apart. But in facing the truth and standing together, we'd found a strength we never knew we had. And that, I realized, was the real inheritance, not money or property, but the bonds that held us together, stronger now for having been tested. We drove away, leaving the house behind. But as we turned onto the main road, I couldn't help but glance back one last time. The chapter of our lives in that house was over, but our story, Max's and mine, was just beginning.